I'm telling our listeners about the life cycle of a truffle.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think they're interested? Because I do.
More phone calls from the lost and found of free speech.
Outrageous opinion and controversial comment with the dual voltage dream team. The Michaels, Graham and Parry. He's back, is he?
Through the night until dawn's early light.
The two Mikes, Parry and Graham on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
There was one actually on last week, I think, about Wales.
Yeah.
Which was fascinating.
A documentary on Wales?
Yes.
Yes, I like documentaries on Wales.
Did you see the one that was on last week?
No.
No.
What was it about?
Wales. This is Talk Sport. I'm Mike Graham. It's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, Porky, Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike.
Very nice to see you.
How are we this morning?
Very well indeed, actually. Very well indeed.
Do you like my diction?
I do like your diction,
now,
yes.
you're
sitting slightly at a different angle than the one you were sitting at last night, which is not a problem.
What?
But I'm just having to look straight at you rather than sort of off to the side, which is fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
When I get around here, you need to see more of my face.
What's going on with addiction, then?
Well, I thought... did you notice... Before we came into the studio tonight, I was munching an apple.
I did notice that, yeah.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
I thought you didn't like to eat much before the actual show.
No.
On the grounds of mastication and all that sort of thing.
No, mastication and the composition of the solar plexus prior to broadcasting has always caused me a bit of a problem.
Yes, you always prepare yourself impeccably for this show.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously.
However... I visited my orthodontist again today.
Oh, did you?
You know I'm having the inside of my mouth rebuilt.
I saw that, yeah.
And sorry,
why not, indeed?
Sorry, what's the problem?
Yeah, well, it just sounds like a little bit more of a sort of project than you'd have first
No, I'm having the inside
I thought
of
you
my
had a few teeth done.
I'm having the inside of my mouth rebuilt. Because when you put two new teeth in, it's no good just having two new teeth in an old mouth.
Right.
You've got loads of reconstructive work to do on the rest of your mouth.
Are you sure this guy's not conning you?
Well, for instance, right, I'm having two implanted teeth, one either side on the lower jaw. But
molars.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but the tooth on the top jaw, because it's not had anything below it to stop it growing before, has now grown down.
Oh, has it?
So that has to be
kind of fang.
Like a fang.
Yeah.
That's got to be replaced with a new crown. We're having that tooth taken out, having that replaced with a crown.
Okay.
The cost so far is £6,750.
Well, that's very, very nice that you can afford such dentistry.
But there is an awful lot more to be done.
Yeah.
Because once the new teeth go in, as I said, the other teeth around them are just not good enough to be there.
Couldn't this just be a continual kind of knock-on effect, though? Every time he puts a new one in, he has to take another one out. You could go on forever.
I'm going to have the bottom four replaced anyway with what do they call those things that are very white?
What you mean? You mean like the
what are they called?
Veneers.
Right. Veneers. But
you have to get them all done then, don't you? You can't just get some of them done.
No, I'm going to have them taken out and new teeth put in.
Oh, I see.
But that's going to be another expensive job.
Right. This is going to go on for ages.
Well, it could be, but.
I'd look at getting something like that done. The total price was about 14 grand.
Oh, and it'll be much more than that in the end. It'll be much more than that. I mean, to get the four front ones done will...
Can you not just rent a few teeth?
Will cost about another 20 grand. Eh?
Can you not just rent a few teeth?
What do you mean rent teeth?
Well, rather than have to pay out that kind of money.
No.
I mean, what's the point of reconstructing your entire mouth?
Yeah.
Only to find that, within 5 years you're dead. It'd be a complete waste of money.
Well, no, I don't agree, because you can't take money with you. I've discovered that now, right?
That's true.
So that's not a problem. But anyway...
You can leave it to people, though.
The relevance of my apple is that I said to the guy today, how you doing, all this kind of stuff, and
do you address him as doctor?
He is a doctor. He's a doctor of reconstructive dental surgery. Is he? Yeah. So, so I said to him, "What about this old theory about an apple a day keeps the doctor away?"
Yeah.
He said, "That's a brilliant theory." I said, "Why?" He said, "An apple is the very best thing to chew because it has a perfect chemical response to your saliva glands."
Oh, yeah.
And your saliva glands need to be efficient because, and he compared it to what you've got at home, a fish aquarium thing.
A fish aquarium?
Yeah, you know,
a fish tank.
In your fish tank, there's a little thing where bubbles come out all the time.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's because it's filtering the water all the time. Yes. Well, what an apple does is, and you should have one a day. I'm going to have one a day now for the rest of my life, right? If I miss an apple a day, I'll be very upset.
It's a bit late now, isn't it?
No.
I mean, how many apples could you have had if you hadn't had one a day?
Well, no, you see, the beauty is, when I get my new teeth, they'll be kept in shape by the production of saliva stimulated by the chemicals in the apple. And what happens is...
Any particular kind of apple?
Well,
I know it's the one you had looked like a sort of a reddish apple.
Yeah, it wasn't my favourite one. My favourite one is the Pink Lady.
Yeah.
I love the Pink Lady apples, right? And what I do is, so as not to waste anything in an apple, I've got what I call my apple cruncher at home.
Yeah.
And it's a machine where you put the apple in the middle and you pull a handle and takes the core out and then cuts the apple into, like one of those chocolate oranges.
It's an apple corer.
It's an apple core, but it cuts it into slices.
With a knife?
Hey?
Why don't you just cut it with a knife?
Well, but why should you when you've got a machine that does it perfectly symmetrically?
When did you buy the apple machine?
Hey?
When did you buy that?
Oh, I don't know, years ago.
Well, what have you used it for, though, up to now?
Nothing. No.
So you've got a useless machine sitting in your kitchen?
Well, you can take out the core of other things.
Like what?
I tried it once with an orange, but it was too
orange doesn't have a
juicy.
core.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, that's what I mean. It sort of...
Well, that doesn't work then.
No, it didn't.
And a pear core is a different shape.
I'll be perfectly honest, I wasn't sure what it was for until I...
Why did you buy it?
Well, I didn't. Somebody bought it me as a present. Yeah,
okay. Right.
And it was in a box for years.
These labour-saving devices, haven't you?
But anyway, look, the point of my story is... So
what is the point? We've got a lot of football to talk about.
We must talk about
your saliva and all these
but I want to talk about Roy Hodgson. And Roy Hodgson's the only man who can say for 3 minutes, I think that we're a good team. I don't care what Gareth Bale says, but it's really not worthy of comment. Yeah. And it was worthy of 4.5 minutes comment, apparently.
Well, indeed,
But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute.
That later,
but anyway, all I was going to say is, the good news is, to the millions who listen out there, my diction will get better and better.
Yes.
By the way,
it's good to have good diction.
I can tell you the actual date. I think it's July the 22nd or something, when I have my first major operation done.
Right.
I will not be able to speak for 24 hours.
Wow. What a fantastic piece of news that is.
That's why I'm being operated on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And
let's hope you don't get asked to go on any other shows.
No, I've even paid for a private ambulance to take me home. What's your problem?
Why? You've paid to have a private ambulance to take you home. Presumably also, if you're going to go under, which I presume you are,
yes,
you'll need somebody to take you home, actually. You can't go home in a private ambulance.
Yes, I can.
You're supposed to bring a friend with you.
No.
Did you say, I haven't got any friends? Is that what you told me?
No, I didn't say that.
I'll have a private ambulance that's got nobody to help me.
No, I fear that if I hemorrhage on the way home, the best place to do it is in the back of an ambulance.
I would have come and got you if you wanted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll put you in the back of the old jalopy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well,
you didn't offer me the opportunity to help you out.
By the time we got home, the springs you've got in that, my 2 new teeth would have fallen out, or my first new tooth.
Anyway.
I'm
amazed they'll let you be released into the custody of no one apart from a paramedic.
Listen, let me tell you this. This is a massive day for football, okay?
It is a massive
day for football.
Yes.
Right, now I expect England to win.
I don't.
I expect England to win, although I have it in my head that a 2-2 draw is a possible result.
That is a possible result. I think a draw is a very possible result.
I think 2-2 draw is a possible result, but I do expect England to win because on paper, if you were looking at them, if you were playing FIFA, 16 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to add up the number of points of merit on each side and say England will win. But do you know what I think should happen?
What should happen?
If we don't win, I think Roy Hodgson should announce that he's stepping down immediately.
Immediately?
Yes, immediately. Yeah. And I'm not being sensationalist. This is not a kind of sack Hodgson and all that. It's just that he was given a second chance by a man who's no longer there, Mr. Bernstein, who was the chairman after the World Cup debacle in 2014, right? And he has. If we don't get the result against Wales, he's not taking the opportunity. And he must...
Well, if England don't get a result against Wales, if England only get a draw, they'll have 2 points, right?
Yeah.
They'll be presumably they'll be above Russia, but they'll be in third place, so they might qualify in third place.
Yes, they might do, but that's not good enough, surely.
No.
I mean,
Sure it's not.
That's a debacle.
No, but I mean, presumably for the FA and for Hodgson, if they're going to go through to the next round, they'll say, "Oh well, we'll try and do better in the next knockout competition."
Would you agree with me that if England lose to Wales, which I don't expect to happen, by the way,
I think it could happen.
Well, okay, if it does happen, would you agree with me that the honourable thing for Roy Hodgson to do would be to announce that he's stepping down? Then I'm not saying he should step down. I'm saying he should say at the end of this tournament, I will step down. I will go. He will have to. He will have to.
Quite honestly, if they lose to Wales, I would be happy for him to step down immediately and just walk away, just go home,
and let Gary Neville take control of the team.
Yeah,
I can't really argue against that.
I can't see any reason for him hanging around
because the last game is a pointless game. We'd end up with 1 point after 2 games, and surely you can't.
They could technically still qualify in third place.
They could, but
even if they lose.
Yeah, but that's an even bigger reason for Roy Hodgson to step down.
Yeah.
He's had 2 games when he could have got 6 points and he's got 1. So therefore, you've got to say it's no good giving him the third game.
And also the sort of the route to the final has already been carved out.
Yes.
If England did top the group, they'd have a relatively easy game against the third place team from some other group, right?
That's right. Yeah. But you're absolutely right because. Even if we lose tomorrow, we could by a miracle qualify by winning the last game, okay? But it's absolutely no good leaving that to chance to Roy Hodgson and his methods and his lineup and his selection of players because it simply hasn't worked.
No,
so
worked.
He shouldn't be left in charge of the team if it's a disaster tomorrow.
No,
Definitely
exactly
not.
Right.
I agree.
And I mean, you can say it's down to the players as well. But I mean, after having watched them, play a reasonably good first half in the game against Russia, yes, they should have scored goals and they were unlucky perhaps not to, but they didn't score any goals. So I mean, if they have the same problem tomorrow or later on today, I should say, then they just can't score goals. No. And you can't win anything if you can't score any goals.
No, I totally agree.
Ridiculous.
And we don't want to be sensationalist here, but it makes practical common sense not to allow Roy Hodgson to have a third bite of the cherry in this competition if he can't win the first two games.
Absolutely not.
I totally agree.
There's certainly no chance of him going to Russia either. We're going to talk to Warren Barton about it coming up a little bit later on. Porky Vision is coming up a little bit later on as well. Got some great tweets as well to get through. We are the Two Mikes. This is TalkSport.
Give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you. No pills gonna cure my ill. I got a bad case of loving you. A pretty face.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mikes. Lots coming up a little bit later on. We're going to be finding out what's going on with the old EgyptAir plane as well, which they seem to have discovered a month later over in the Mediterranean. Here's one from Dazza, who's tweeted in at the Two Mikes. She says, Apple has the perfect chemical reaction for your saliva, but it doesn't stop Porky from talking rubbish.
What?
#plank.
That's very nice.
And Becky says, sounds like the time Porky has finished his... Well, by the time Porky has finished his orthodontistry, it will have cost him as much as the Merc. #man of the people.
I'm not sure.
I do worry slightly that this guy has got you on the rack.
Oh, no.
And it's like talking you through this whole kind of scenario.
No.
You're going to end up spending an absolute fortune.
No.
Because he's going to go, we'll just have to do this other thing now because something
unexpected
I'm all for
has
it. Come up.
I want a decent set of teeth in my mouth.
Why would you bother?
It gives you self-confidence and
it
gives me I feel better talking when I've got a full set of teeth in my mouth, honestly.
Right.
Because I'll have two false things put in. While what happens is they actually put a metal bolt into your mouth, onto which they'll attach my new teeth, but that bolt has to knit in with your jawbone over a period of months. You know what I mean?
It's going to take quite a long time.
It's going to take a long time.
Things in. It's going to be, you're going to be doing this for years. Literally, you're going to be doing it for years.
Yeah, probably. Now I'm glad that
you don't end up looking like Peter Crouch. You'll be fine.
I'm glad there are millions of listeners who've got the spirit thing. I'm just laughing here because a guy called Irish One, he's a Liverpool fan, and he sent me this fantastic video, and it shows a bloke who juggles apples but eats them at the same time. And he says that's me.
Well, he's not eating them, is he? He's just putting them in his mouth as he's juggling them. He can't possibly eat a whole apple.
He's biting them. Look, he's taking a bite out of the apples.
Well, he might be taking a bite out of them, but
he
can't be. He's not like shoving the apple right into his face.
I think that's very fun. I want to thank him. Now, another guy here called JPK. Clearly a very well-read individual. I'm assuming it's a man.
Pav, isn't it?
Hey?
That's Pav.
Oh, it's Pav, is it? Is he the doctor?
No, he's not doctor.
Oh, isn't he? What is he?
But he's a lawyer.
Oh, he's a lawyer, right, OK. He says, so Porky's only just discovered posthumous impecunity.
Yes.
It's a nice word, isn't it?
Yes.
Posthumous, what does it mean?
Well, it means something that happens after you're... Posthumous means after you're dead.
Right, OK. And impecunity?
Impecunity, I suppose, is something to do with, trying to make sure that there's no reason to have any money when you're there.
Yeah, OK. That's absolutely right. I knew posthumous was dead. Impecunity, it's just clicked in my brain, means possessions.
Yes.
Yeah, you can divest yourself of possessions.
You can. You can divest yourself of possessions while you're still alive, if you wish.
Prior to death, yeah. But anyway, it says, were you blinded by avarice prior to now?
Yeah.
Me? Avaricious?
Well, I mean, you have spent a lot of time acquiring things, haven't you? I mean, you've said yourself you've got all these things in your house that you don't really need, you don't really use.
Yeah.
You buy things for no apparent purpose.
Well, maybe.
You've got more money than sense, basically. Scott says this, does Porky not like the pink married lady more than the normal pink lady?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question because it's provocative, but I do like the pink ladies, but of late I've found they've started getting very expensive.
Have they?
4 pink ladies in a cardboard tray covered in plastic, right, at Tesco's, now costs nearly £3. What's your problem?
Well, you're just spending about 30 grand on teeth. And you're worried about spending £3 on the apples to keep it all working.
Don't like getting ripped off on my...
William says, why doesn't Porky just get dentures? The thousands of pounds he would save, you could give to you, MG, for the $1.5 million he cost you.
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
You're wasting away with all this money. You just hand it over to me.
Have you never had a nightmare of, what old people used to do and put their teeth in a glass jar next to their bed and all that kind of stuff?
Well,
I've
witnessed people doing that.
Oh, my God. Where have you witnessed that?
And also witnessed people...
Where have you witnessed that?
I'm too much of a gentleman to reveal who I've seen...
Not your father. father?
I'm not going to tell you exactly who it was.
I mean, I liked your father. He was a good man. Was he your father?
No, my father actually had a particularly unusual approach to teeth.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
When he started to get old and his teeth started to get a bit sort of worn down, he sort of did a bit of DIY dentistry.
Really?
Yeah.
What with?
He used to take his own teeth out. And then he fashioned a couple of teeth out of some material or other that he had.
And put them back in his mouth?
Put them back in, yeah.
How do they stay in?
I don't really know how he did it.
I mean, did he...
It wasn't a particularly successful scenario.
I was going to say, did he use super glue?
I don't know what he did.
You could use super glue,
I don't know what he
couldn't
did. Well, I suppose you could. I don't think it'd be very good for you.
No, I think you could. Super glue sticks anything. I mean, I use super glue in situations where you're supposed to use nails and all sorts of things.
No, but I don't think you could stick a super glue tooth actually onto your gum. You'd have to hold it there for a start.
No.
Hours.
What I mean is, if you did it properly and you crafted it properly, you could line the sides of the two teeth to it, and it was going into the gap. Yeah. You could put super glue on the sides on the new tooth and the sides of the old teeth, and stick it in. It would stay there forever.
Well, I don't know. You see, I think
it would.
I think there's quite a lot of strain put on teeth, particularly if you're chewing and you're eating and all of that. I think I'm not even sure super glue would hold it. But I'm not willing to divulge who it was that I saw.
Was your mother's teeth?
No, I'm not telling you.
You're still alive.
No, I'm not telling you whose teeth
got a good set of teeth. Why
do you need to know whose it was?
Well, I just, I think you're making too much of a generalisation.
Well,
I'd like to know more specifically what this is about.
Well, it doesn't matter who I'm talking about.
We are talking teeth, man.
But
so,
I've
seen some specific examples.
Let's say I've seen older people first thing in the morning without their teeth in.
Yes.
Which is kind of...
Have you ever had any teeth knocked out?
I never have, actually, no.
No, I've seen teeth being knocked out in a football match. Yeah. And in a particularly unpleasant...
what, with a fist? Or just with an accident?
An elbow, actually. An elbow, but accidentally. Yeah. But in a particularly unpleasant incident once in a nightclub, in my youth, I saw people emerge from a quite brutal encounter in the men's lavatory. Yeah. And one bloke had broken teeth in the front and was bleeding. Yeah. But the other guy, because he was like a skinhead, they had skinheads in those days, or suede heads or something.
Thuggish.
Yeah, he had two teeth sticking out of his head.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the remains of the other man's teeth.
How did that happen? He headbutted it or something?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he smashed it. I think on a headbutt him and he
I was at a boxing match once and some teeth came sort of flying towards me.
Horrendous, yeah.
Roberto Duran had lost his gumshoe. And he was fighting on the undercard of Barry McGuigan somewhere in Vegas.
You don't know that.
And suddenly there was this sort of horrible kind of cloud of blood and gore and whatever. Yes. And accompanied by a couple of teeth that just kind of landed on the table.
Not nice, eh?
No, not nice at all.
Nice.
Horrendous.
I mean, you talk to me about getting my teeth done, but haven't you seen people like Bill Wyman? Yeah. Or maybe even Keith Richards? Yeah. Who 1 minute have the teeth that represent 50 years of smoking, taking drugs, not paying attention to your teeth.
Like pillars of stone.
Pillars of stone, and have turned all brown and all that. And then suddenly a few months later, they have gleaming sets of white gnashes. Right. I mean, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's that's what I want to do, transform myself.
That is now what's happening. There was a time when, for example, when I first went to America, one of the things that people said was, you got English teeth. Yes. Because people do have, because...
horrible teeth,
traditionally in this country, you didn't get... Because Americans' teeth are always much better than ours.
Yes, exactly, they are,
and now suddenly this country has started catching up. Yes. So people having very, very white, shimmering teeth. Exactly. And veneers and all of that. Exactly. I remember once that somebody here at Talk Sport actually got them done.
Yeah, I do.
Came in one morning.
I do.
And he kind of was like almost blinded.
Yeah, I know.
Because one of the things you've got to do, presumably, is make sure they don't look that different from what you had before.
Yeah, but you see, that is a false premise. My orthodontist told me...
Presumably he would not recommend the super glue scenario.
Well, I haven't asked him about it, really. No, that's for poor people.
Sure it shouldn't be.
He doesn't deal with poor people, to be honest.
Should try at home.
But anyway, the point is...
Well, no, he doesn't need to, because he's got idiots like you walking in. He's just willing to spend millions.
Well, I'm not an idiot. I decided that's what I want to spend money on. Now, what I was going to say is, if you have one of these compounds which you rub on your teeth and they suddenly go white, it's rotting your teeth. Yeah. It literally is taking all the... what's the thing on your teeth?
The enamel.
The enamel. It's taking the enamel off your teeth.
What compound are you talking about?
Well, people have these compounds. For instance, my sister's friend went on the internet and ordered a packet of things from America, which were strips that you put on your teeth.
Yeah, you talked about these when we do H&J,
Yeah, but they just take the enamel off your teeth.
That's the other thing. A lot of people go over to places like Bulgaria and Romania to have it done there. Yeah. You get it done slightly cheaper.
Yeah. Now, listen, this is very important, I've got to tell you next.
What's that?
Do you accept that one of my bolder predictions was that man will one day run the 100 metres in 1 second?
I do remember that, yeah.
Right.
Slightly before my time, but it's always
Yeah.
something that people
Yeah.
constantly remind me of.
And what I meant by that...
I also remember one of your predictions was that Albania shouldn't be in the tournament here at France Euro 2016.
Well, they got beat 2-0 by France.
They did in the end, but they put up a pretty good fight, and they were really, until about the 90th minute, they were looking at 0-0.
I don't care.
They were
got
looking
beat
at 0-0.
2-0. This is how teams win tournaments, by putting the pressure on right to the end, and France are now the first team to qualify on home soil, so they're looking very good.
Yes.
Now, what I was going to say to you was...
Go on.
My theory about 100 metres in 1 second is based on science, and that is that every time there is a new Olympic Games or Commonwealth Games or World Championships, somebody comes out with a new world record.
Yes.
So if the times are going down all the time, eventually, probably hundreds of years from now, a man will run the 100 metres in 1
I don't think
second
that'll happen.
because he'll be 7 foot 6 inches tall and so fit that it will be literally...
So what's new?
3 paces. Well,
So
what's new? What's new is that, believe
Take
it...
the time, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry about that. What's new is that, believe it or not, a group of scientists have got together and now formally disagree with me.
Do they? Well, they've always disagreed with you.
Yeah,
because you've been talking rubbish.
Yeah, through 4 decades of isotonic drinks, early morning sprints, and endless bottles of urine, sports scientists have propped up the world's world's leading athletes and driven them to ever higher summits of achievement.
Yeah.
So this is going along my plan, okay?
Yeah.
But not for much longer, according to an Olympic athlete turned academic, Greg White, Professor of Sport and Exercise Science at Liverpool John Moores University.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why it's called John Moores University?
Presumably because they put a load of money into it.
Well, John Moores did, and who was John Moores?
John Moores was the guy that owned Everton,
The
wasn't he?
founding father of the Merseyside Millionaires, Everton Football Club.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
But that was that different guy from the Pools Moors, wasn't it?
No, that's
It
him.
was the same guy?
No, that's him,
Oh, it
Littlewoods.
was the same, right, okay.
They created Littlewoods.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, John Moores University believes that humans are scraping the ceiling of their capabilities across track and field.
Yeah.
The seemingly inexorable march of new world records... Inexorable, that's it, yeah. March of new world records may be coming to a halt. Milestones such as the 2-hour men's marathon may elude runners forever as they hit the outer limits of their abilities.
Yeah.
And Professor White said all this at the Times Cheltenham Science Festival.
You weren't invited to that, strangely.
No, I wasn't actually.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
I
that comes as
presume
no
is sponsored
surprise.
by the Times newspaper.
I would imagine so, yeah.
And he says, in track and field terms, you've only got to look at Sebco's 800 metres record that lasted for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
On other records, I think, sadly, there are some events which were drug-assisted, so we have to take that into account,
Yes.
and which, from our predictions, were over and above what we predict is humanly possible.
Oh, yeah.
At all distances, both genders are starting to plateau.
Yes.
How about that?
Well, I think that's fairly
Isn't that
obvious.
amazing?
That was fairly obvious to everyone apart from you,
No.
who came out with that rubbish in the first place.
I think that's amazing. That. I think that's amazing. But I mean, I've created the conversation. I've created
You
the
think
debate.
so?
Of course,
Why
I
do you
have.
think you weren't invited to the summit?
Well, I'm not a scientist.
No,
I
of
can
course
only
not.
tell you what should have happened logically
I know.
and logistically. I
David
suppose.
Biggleswade says, Mike, will Porky's teeth look like Austin Powers? Yeah, baby.
Yes,
This is Talk
baby.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
What did she say?
She said, my boy, I think someday you'll find a way to make your natural tendencies pay. You'll be a dentist. You have a talent for causing things. Hey, son, be a dentist. People will pay you.
You ever heard that song before?
What's up? Be a dentist?
Yeah. It's
on a
Steve
comedy
Martin.
record.
Well, it's Steve Martin. It's from a movie called Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh,
which
is
is
it?
a sort of musical.
Little Shop Horrors. Now,
Yeah.
that used to be a live stage play, didn't it?
It was a stage
Didn't
show
it run for
musical as well.
years?
I think it did, yeah.
Yeah, now, do you know why I never went to that?
Why not?
Because to go to that, I was told you had to dress up like some sort of pervert or something. And
No, you're thinking of the Rocky Horror Show.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
You'd like
You didn't have to dress up to go and watch the Little
nylons
Shop.
on and all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
no, we didn't have to.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was Frankenfurter. That was a different show.
No, it wasn't. No, it was...
The Rocky Horror Show was a different show. This
what-
is Little Shop of Horrors.
yeah, same thing, isn't it?
No, it's not the same thing.
You sure?
Absolutely
What
not.
was Little Shop of Horrors
The
about?
Little Shop of Horrors was about these kind of crazy plants and this crazy dentist played by Steve Martin.
Oh, okay.
And it was just it was a different show.
Has it been a film as well?
It was made into that was a film version with Steve Martin.
And was that successful?
It was successful.
I'm
yeah.
sure. I don't think it was.
Yeah. Do you know who was in the Rocky Horror Show when they made the movie?
The movie of
Yeah.
the Rocky Horror Show.
Who
Is
they
this the one
discovered.
where the pervs turn up?
Well, it's not pervs. It's just,
Yeah.
there was a guy dressed as a woman. It's, it's perfectly normal behaviour this day and age.
No, I think it was worse than that. I think they were very disturbed people.
Disturbed.
Yeah.
Well,
but anyway, who was in it?
Meatloaf was sort of made his debut in that as a singer.
Yeah,
He played a
Meatloaf.
character on a bike.
Yeah, hang on, Meatloaf. I'm just trying to think.
Yeah,
Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah.
Like a bat out of hell.
Yeah, he's able to sing
that.
Now, I don't know if you saw Roy Hodgson's press conference a little bit earlier.
Well, I mean, it was just a.
Do you not think that
amusing.
Gareth Bale is still running rings around him? Because Gareth Bale has obviously learned from Ronaldo, and Ronaldo, who's upset all the Icelandic
Ronaldo
players
was brilliant, wasn't he?
because he came out and refused to shake hands, refused to take his shirt off.
Well, a few weeks
and
ago,
said that they were a small team with small mentality.
You see, a few weeks ago, you told me that story about Ronaldo when he wanted to get out of Belfast so
that's right.
quickly, he just ran straight off the pitch, down the tunnel, into the car, and straight to the airport to the private plane.
Into his private
Sounds to
jet.
me like he might have done that last night
Well, he
against
might have done.
Iceland.
He might have gone back to Madeira.
Yeah, exactly, because he apparently walked off the pitch, wouldn't shake hands with any Icelandics, refused to acknowledge that they were there, and then was terribly disparaging about their performance afterwards. What did he say?
Well, he said basically it was the actions of a small team.
Yeah,
they
a
weren't-
small
They had
nation.
no kind of no ambition, and they weren't going to win anything at the Euros, which of course they're not. That's not the point.
Yeah.
But they've also come back. One of their players came back and said, well, Ronaldo is not like Lionel Messi because no wonder Lionel Messi's better than him because Lionel
That's
Messi
right.
would never say anything
That's
like
right,
that.
yeah,
And so they obviously got under his skin, but I just think that he's also somehow passed on this kind of Real Madrid Galacticos arrogance to Gareth Bale, which is working terribly well. Because Gareth Bale
I don't
is
agree.
winding up Roy Hodgson something rotten.
I don't agree. I think you're absolutely right that Gareth Bale's quite entitled to feel like a superior footballing animal compared to Roy Hodgson. I totally agree with that. But the way he dishes it out, it doesn't seem arrogant. It just seems amusing and provocative and rather, to the neutral, rather warm
I think so.
sort of humour.
And
know what I mean?
it gets Roy Hodgson saying things like this.
I don't really like to comment on things other people have said. We're perfectly satisfied with the passion that we bring to our games, and we certainly don't have any doubts ourselves about our passion, our desire, our commitment, our wish to do well in the tournament. So if other people have another opinion and think that they're better at it, then that's fine by me, but it's certainly not something that I really believe is worthy of comment, if I'm to be brutally honest.
Well, why then, Roy, did you spend 4 minutes commenting on it?
I think you've been a bit
then?
harsh on him because if he gets asked a question, he has to answer it. But I mean, it sounds like he's about to expire.
Yeah.
I mean, you ever heard somebody less passionate saying, we're full of passion? He's not full of passion at all.
No,
sounds like he wants to go to bed.
He sounded like a bloke who
And
just finished...
and not for anything other than sleep.
He sounded like a bloke who just attempted to run the 100 metres in 1 second but failed, right? Then attempted to run the 2-hour marathon but failed, OK?
Yeah.
And sounds very tired, very knackered and totally uninspiring. And I think Gareth Bale's been utterly fantastic. You say he's running rings around Roy Hodgson in the PR game, but I don't think he set out to do that. I think he's done what you've just said. I think Gareth Bale's natural self-belief and his natural pride in his country...
He's just won the Champions League as well.
That's what I mean, he has, he is a Galactico and he's in a team that's one of the best in the world, and I think his natural star ability, or whatever you want to call it, it just shines, doesn't it?
It's true.
Yeah.
How about this one from David, who says, I just imagine a whole day without the dull tones of Mike Porky Plank Parry.
Yes.
It'll be heaven. I
Right.
will pay $1 for that any day of the week. He's talking about when you'll be unable to speak.
What's this guy's name?
His name's David.
Well, David, you could also emigrate to Ulaanbaatar because it's the only place on earth that
You can still get
talks
Talk
about...
Sport there.
No, you can't.
No, you can. Why not?
No, it's the only place on earth that you can't
How
get
do
it.
you know?
Because the authorities have banned it.
I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah, they have, honestly. They have banning, like, what are they, interceptor signals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, Ian says, Porky should have his kitchen done along with his teeth. Then he could say he had his teeth taken out and a new kitchen put in. I'm not sure if there's a specific joke there.
No, I don't think there is. Now, listen, in France, there's a lot of hassle going on there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously with the tournament. But also, did you notice that yesterday there were riots in Paris also because of Labour law changes?
Yeah.
And they're all saying...
it's going off all over the place, isn't it? I mean, I'm amazed they've got enough police to deal with it all, to be honest.
Well, our colleague Mr. Brazil came back from France today. And
what was he reporting?
Not a lot, actually, but I was amazed that he came back on the Eurostar and he got in bang on time at St Pancras, you know, and everything. But no, as usual, whenever our colleague Al goes anywhere, he doesn't do a lot of sightseeing.
No.
He does a lot of...
Well, I mean, he's probably seen it all and done it all, hasn't he?
He does a lot of indoor research.
He's probably been, to the Louvre in the past, and maybe he's gone up there.
I very much doubt that.
Maybe he's gone on a boat down the Seine.
When we went to
Notre Dame.
When we went to Istanbul,
Yeah.
and this is quite literally, we were there for 5 days for an England game, and Al didn't take to Istanbul in the taxi.
It was too hot.
Well, I don't know. I just think everything was wrong.
Yeah.
Because in the taxi from the hotel... from the airport to the hotel.
Yeah.
And the hotel was a great hotel. We just fell on our feet. We had a fantastic 5 or 6 star hotel.
Right.
It was magnificent.
Right.
We had gardens inside in a courtyard and all that kind of stuff.
Was this the Champions League final you were at?
No, it was England playing Turkey in a qualifier at Besiktas's ground, And of course, Istanbul is divided into 2.
Yes.
You go across the bridge over the what's that stretch of river called?
It's kind of the cradle of civilization. Isn't it?
Yeah. What's that?
Mesopotamia.
Yeah, no. What's the water called? I've forgotten now. You go over the bridge from Asia to Europe, and you're going across the Bering,
it's not the Bering Strait.
the Bosphorus. Bosphorus. That's right. Yeah, but anyway, so in the from the airport to the hotel. I don't eat this place, Porky. I'm not keen on this. What's that there? I said, well, that's the Blue Moscow. It's one of the most famous buildings in the world. It's not blue. I said, no.
Well, he couldn't go there, could he?
Well,
you got to go to the Green Mosque.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Presumably.
And then, another one, what's that building there? I said, oh, well, that's one of their, sort of temples. And and what's this here, Anyway, by the time we got to the hotel, he says, I don't fancy this town at all. And for the next 5 days, did not leave the hotel.
Really?
Yeah, they either spent it in the hotel confines or in the courtyard in the middle.
Yeah.
But he didn't even go to the game.
Right.
He didn't fancy it. Yeah.
So why did he go at all?
Well, because we were doing the breakfast show from there every morning, you see.
Okay.
So he had to be there for that purpose.
Right.
But for the rest of it, he didn't immerse
I
himself
should
in
be
the
giving
culture.
so many secrets away from Mr. Brazil. You might not be happy about that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
But anyway, no, he's told people about it all the time. He says, no, Istanbul. No, they didn't fancy it.
Yeah.
Because, of course, many years later, there was the famous Champions League final.
There was
wasn't
indeed,
and
yeah.
decided not to bother.
David says this: scientists that say things are not possible are a bad example for our kids and should have their research funding removed.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
Well, it's not a good point, really,
Yeah.
because, it's the whole point of scientists is to counter the kind of madness that people like you come out with. So if you're a scientist, you're supposed to, rely on what is empirical data,
Yes.
and you shouldn't just go along with, whatever anybody, Tom, Dick or Harry says.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, soon we'll all be flying to the moon.
Sure.
Soon we'll all be able to fly in cars. Soon we'll,
Yeah.
it's better if scientists keep their feet on the ground, isn't it?
But quite a lot of scientists carry the prefix mad, don't they? The mad scientist. But,
Well, not a lot of scientists do.
but, well,
I don't know any
a lot of
scientists
them do,
that
but
that.
you don't find many people talking about the mad Porky Parry. But anyway,
you do, actually.
the reason I mentioned Paris in the first place is, wouldn't you think the French had enough problems at the moment, other than launching their latest campaign, which is to rid France of that revolting car, the Citroën 2CV.
Citroën de Cheveux.
Yeah. Do you
What's
know
wrong
what I'm
with-
talking about?
Well,
yeah, I'll
yeah,
show
I
you
do,
a
I
picture of
know.
it. See that?
My sister used to have one of those.
You're
and,
joking.
funnily enough, when she was quite young, I think it was the first car she had.
Yes.
When we were still both kind of working in Hampstead in the bakery.
Yes.
And at one point, she was parked in this road called Church Road, very narrow.
Yes.
And somebody had somehow scraped up against the side of the bump, the bit that covers the back wheel.
Yes.
Whatever that's called.
Yeah, the fender or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, it wasn't even a fender, but it had crushed the metal in.
The real arch.
Yeah, the wheel arch,
Yes,
that's it.
yes.
And it crushed it into so the car, the wheel was scraping
I
around
see.
it. And her boyfriend at the time came out and had a look at it.
Yes.
And he just said, oh, that's all right, not a problem. And he just pulled it out.
Right.
Basically with his bare hands.
I see.
Because it was like a tin can.
Yeah, it's like made of foil or
But they
something.
were great cars, though.
But
they don't still make them, though, do they?
Yeah, it says
I don't
owners
think
of
they
beloved
do.
old French cars such as the Citroën 2CV, driven to road rage after it was announced that they would be banned from Paris from next month.
Why?
Because they are so unroadworthy, they keep breaking down and causing traffic jams.
They've got the weirdest gear lever I've ever seen in my life. It comes out of the dashboard.
That's right, and it's
sort of, you have to
like
move
an
it
umbrella
around.
handle, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but all French cars are a bit mad.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beauty of
But
it.
the problem is, bits fall off these cars all
Yeah.
over the place
Right.
and puncture other drivers' wheels in real cars
Yeah.
like mine. You know what I mean?
Real cars.
Yeah, yeah.
How are your tyres, by the way? Have you had any punctures this week?
Well, do you know what? It's absolutely amazing. When I was on the way home this morning, I had to call in to make a commercial purchase.
A commercial purchase?
A commercial
Or some
purchase.
apples?
No, I bought a
commercial-
bookcase, a new bookcase.
You bought a bookcase?
Bookcase,
Why?
yes. Well, I've got a load of books that need
All right.
somewhere to...
I thought you were going to get that from IKEA.
No, I didn't go there in the end.
Where'd you go?
I can't tell you.
You went to Argos, didn't you?
No, I didn't go to August.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
Where'd you go?
I didn't go to August.
Tell us where you went.
No,
Why is it secret?
No, it's not secret. It's not secret. It's just irrelevant. You know, I don't like to fill
There's
our...
some cheapo place, I bet.
No, millions of listeners' minds. Anyway, getting back to the 2CV, right?
I've seen the time.
And I noticed the wheel was turned as I parked the car, and I thought that tyre is flat.
Yeah.
But the problem is, modern-day tyres on good cars are so narrow now, they look as though there's no air in them. They are. It's just like a belt of rubber around a rim.
But you keep thinking you've got a puncture.
I do,
Every week you think you've got a puncture.
Oh, the other thing about the 2CV. The amount of pollution caused by the 500,000 2CVs still around in Paris, right, could kill like hundreds of people every year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I don't know why they're getting away with it, doing away with it. It's one of the great iconic cars of France. But we'll talk some more about that because we've got to talk about what's going on in France, i.e. the football, with Warren Barton coming next.
Excellent.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
UEFA Euro 2016 France on Talk Sport with Toolstation. Buy online or in over 220 local branches nationwide. There when you need it.
It's the early kick-off later on today, of course. It's 2 o'clock. It's England against Wales. It's Group B. It's a must-win game, really, for England, Mr. Parry. And we're going to talk now to Warren Barton, who knows a thing or two about playing in some tough internationals for England. Warren, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, my friends. How are you?
Yeah, very well,
thank you.
Very well indeed. I mean, this is a must-win for England, isn't it? After what happened yesterday, I mean, Roy Hodgson, we're told, was quite shocked to discover that the Russians had been beaten by Slovakia, because I think he thought that Slovakia were the worst team in the group. Now it looks like Russia were, and England's draw against them is looking pretty dodgy.
Yeah, and the draw felt like a loss. The way it was a cheap goal to give away in the last minutes of the game. Dominating the game really for about 80 minutes, and substitutions is something that we can debate and talk about. Rather than pushing maybe for the second goal, we sat back and tried to see the game out, and we're obviously not good enough to do that. So it is a must-win game, and you're coming against a team that got a wonderful result in their first game. They've been full of confidence. They've got a world superstar with Gareth, Bale, who's saying the right things for the Welsh public, and he wants to go in there and he'd be bullish about playing him. And he's one, obviously, as one as many that could obviously hurt England, but England need to show the pride that they're talking about, the determination that they have, and the character. I think we need to show that now, that we can go and perform on a stage at a high level and get the result we need.
I mean, Warren, you just mentioned the sort of confidence that the Welsh team will have. I mean, just tell us, how vital is it that the Welsh are absolutely high as a kite? They're carrying what we call the big mo, the big momentum. They feel brilliant about having 3 points on the board already. And they've never been more confident in their lives that they're going to give England at least a great game. And in their own heads, they think they can win it.
Yeah, and also you've got a manager with Chris Coleman that knows the English mentality, knows obviously all the players, the coaches. He's going to be really driven for this game. He'd be motivated to do well for his good friend Gary Speed as well, that obviously was the manager before. So there's a lot of expectation and passion and drive and momentum with the Welsh. And they're not going to fear us, and that's something that England are going to have to cope with. You know, we're worried about them. You can see in the media, the players, the press conference. We're worried about them. They're not worried about us. They've got everything going for them.
No, that's true. Do you know what? When I put that down to Roy Hodgson, I'm sorry, but his attitude towards public speaking and to giving out the message from within inside the England camp and to rallying his troops and making them look up to him and think, wow, he's carrying the burden of responsibility on his shoulder. I think he's very poor at that. I think Mr. Hodgson is the wrong person in the wrong job at the wrong time.
I think it's hard to say that because the qualifications was magnificent. We did that. But now you want Roy to be aggressive in his substitution, you know, taking off the captain in the last 10 minutes of the game, 12 minutes ago.
Mad.
You just don't do that. You know, them type of decisions. I mean, Roy's been excellent with younger players when he was at Fulham, players that didn't have that expectation. When he went to Liverpool, speaking to players in the club, he found it very difficult to deal with men and to deal with the pressure. Where there's no bigger pressure than managing Germany, England, Brazil, and things like that. So that comes hand in hand. He's got the experience. I think we need to see a bit of character from him. And he's number two. You know, Ray Lewinson and Gary Neville, and then they've got to show that togetherness that the Welsh are showing.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to show that bullish spirit, that we're confident, that we're going to go toe-to-toe with Wales. We've got more ability. But ability is nothing unless you do it on the field.
Yeah.
But this is the age-old conversation, isn't it, Warren, that we've had sort of from time immemorial, really, about England. I mean, aside from, I think I've said this to you before, aside from Euro 96, you know, I think most people can't remember the last time they got really excited about an England team in a sort of a finals competition, because no matter, as you say, how well they did in the qualifiers, they didn't lose a game, you know, had a great record, they suddenly get in, and, you know, yes, they played quite well in the first half, but they didn't score, and it was almost as if they didn't know how to score.
No, I think when you talk about the two people that's got excited, in my time would have been Sir Bobby Robson in Italian 90 with the group of players that he had there, and obviously Terry Venables in Euro 96.
Yeah.
And them two managers had character. They had personalities, they had character, and so did their team. When you looked through the team of the men that they had, of Butcher and Pearce and Waddle, and then you go back to people like Adams and Stuart Pearce again, and obviously Alan Shearer and Sheridan, you had men in the team. We've got young men, but they want to be men now. And I think they've got to bridge that gap between the age is not a problem. I don't care whether you're 21 or 31. If you're good enough to play for your country, you've got to have that confidence about your ability and that personality. And I think the Welsh have got a personality about the way they're playing. And we've got to show that going into the game. Because both of the coaches, as I said, with Sir Bobby Robson and Terry Venables, had personality and would deal with the media, go toe-to-toe, not necessarily arguing with them, but go out there and say, put their head on the line and say, we're going to do well, we're going to play the game, and we're going to go from there. And I think Roy needs to be a bit more bullish in his press conference.
Well, do you know, it's funny you should say that one. I don't know how closely you follow the rugby, but Eddie Jones, who is the head coach of the England rugby team, he does it all with a smile on his face. And I think people respond to that more than they respond to a scowl, you know what I mean? And all we ever seem to get from Roy is this deep-thinking, furrowed brow, you know, and mumbling sort of, you know, intellectual type phrases. I'd like a bit more of the old Eddie type approach.
Correct. I mean, you know, I'm in media now, and I've been in the media for 10 years. I've been in the professional game for 25 years. You've got to deal with the media, and that's what the American managers, coaches, they hit the media straight away. Even when a game's going on, when there's a timeout, they have to face the media, and they have to be bullish. They have to say certain things.
Yes.
In England, we scare away. We don't go and see the media.
Yes.
We go and say, no, we're not going to talk to you. And I've been in changing rooms where they've said, no, I don't want to talk to the media.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility as a captain and as a manager to face the music.
Yeah,
and also Eddie Jones has a very different attitude. I mean, somebody put a tweet out today saying, you know, when Roy managed to get a draw with Russia, you know, he said he was satisfied with the result or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, when Eddie Jones beats Australia, who are the number 2 team in the world, he says we've got to improve.
Yeah, exactly, we've got to improve. Do you know, it's funny you should say that, Warren, because all the speculation now is on what Gary Neville will do next. You know, will he come back to his role on Sky? So within the media, he's an absolute superstar. But you know what? He's the one member of the England coaching staff over in France who simply will not talk to the media. And I think you're absolutely right. From your experience in how that relationship between communicating with the world and doing your professional job exists these days, Gary Neville's got to learn, hasn't he? I mean, I'm not criticising Gary on his own. I'm saying it is an essential part of a coach's job now.
Yeah, and Gary should know that better than anybody. I said he was very brave when he took the Valencia job, and he's got experience because he was obviously well respected in Sky and the job that he was doing.
Indeed.
But as soon as he crossed that line and went to a coach, he left himself vulnerable, and obviously it went horribly wrong for him. So he should know better than anybody now.
Yeah.
When the chips are down, you're going to need to talk to the press. You're going to need, and we're not saying sucking up. We're not saying, but we're saying be man enough to face the music, answer the questions that are being answered, and have your point of view. Now, whether the press like it or spin it round or do whatever they like, they're going to do it. But at least go and speak to them because they've got responsibility and they're going to do it. You know, just a brief story. When I first went to Newcastle, Peter Beardsley, Lee Clark said to me about the local press. You know, the local press have a big say in the city. They're big. When we were on a 15-hour plane journey across to Singapore.
Right.
I sat there with the local press. You know, I was a new signing, new player, and I got to know them. I got to know their mentality. I sat with them. Not that we was drinking for 15 hours, but we was talking about the game, and they're human beings, and you've got to talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's part and parcel of the job. And that was one of the things. Okay, when I played crap, they hammered me.
Yeah.
But I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to hide away. And the next week, when I do well and you get man of the match and they want to talk to you, you've got to do it. So it's just
What do you think, Warren?
Should know that.
Warren, what do you think about the team selection he's going to make? I mean, all the indications seem to be that it's going to be the same team that went out against Russia. I mean, surely he should be thinking about playing Jamie Vardy, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I would have done. I mean, with Kane as well, and he looked tired the last 10, 15 minutes. And that's where Vardy, you would say to him, Vardy, go up there, be hungry, look to run in behind, and just close the Russians down so they can't keep lumping the ball into our box. Kane was tired. Alana did well, but then faded in the game. So I think he's got some big calls to make, and I just hope he's aggressive in his selection with them, because they will fear Vardy. The Welsh fullbacks and the back line will fear Vardy.
They should.
They won't really fear. They should, but they won't really fear Kane by himself.
No.
And Alana and Sturridge and people like that. You've got to. One thing defenders hate is pace.
Yes.
And what I love about Vardy, he's hungry, he'll work hard, he'll hustle for the ball, and he'll have a go and play. And I think off the back of him doing that, Dele Alli will look lively, he'll look strong. Rooney then will feed off of that. And Walker, Walker's a fullback. He did a lot of good things going forward. But you need 3, 4, 5 players doing that. And Vardy could be the trigger point by doing that and working hard and chasing all the ugly side of the game that people don't want to do, but the fans appreciate it.
Yeah,
He's
sure.
standing there, 40,000 England fans are going to be saying, look at him working his socks off. And then motivate the fans in the stadium and then obviously give a good response for the players. Because we need everybody, because it's going to be a tough game, and it's a game that I hope all sets of fans behave themselves and do credit to each and every country, because the spotlight's on everybody at the moment.
Yeah,
absolutely right. Warren, thank you very much indeed. Warren Barton there with his views on the big game coming up at 2 o'clock live right here on TalkSport, England versus Wales. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. We've got loads and loads of tweets we have to catch up on, and a couple of birthday wishes we have to give out as well. Here's one from Matt, who says, behave yourself, Porky. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the Rocky Horror Picture Show or the people who like it at all.
Yes.
And Carl says, Little Shop of Horrors is great. Another film Porky should add to his list of what he should see but won't. And then
what was that called again?
The Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, Little Shop of Horrors.
It is quite good.
Yeah.
Here's one from John, who says, your obsession with Roy Hodgson is extremely tiresome. I bet you two were the same about Bobby Robson in the 80s.
No.
Actually, not at all.
Bobby Robson was a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
No, there's been nothing more than absolute dire sludge-like football under Roy Hodgson, and under Bobby Robson that was not the case.
And by the way, we're not obsessed with Roy Hodgson. And if Roy Hodgson acted, as I think he should, as in a more confident fashion, as the controller of a great pool of talented English footballers, we wouldn't even be talking about Roy Hodgson in anything other than glowing terms.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
How about this one from William, who says, on this day in 1961, Rudolf Nureyev defected to the West.
Really?
Wasn't Porky one of the last people to see him alive? Don't get him started, William, for heaven's sake.
No, I wasn't the last person to see him alive. He was lying in his bed there, and I said, how are you, Rudy? And it didn't make a lot of sense.
No,
but I mean, he did have like
it was one of your final interviews, one of his final interviews, rather than
it
one
was
of
his
yours.
final interview.
Yeah.
He died that night,
yes.
And he was one of the first victims of AIDS actually, before most people knew what it was all about. You know, but that's another story.
Absolutely right.
Now,
Paul says, when Porky can't speak for 24 hours, maybe he should pen some more amazing poetry for his adoring public.
Oh, that's a
Man
good
of the
idea.
people.
Yeah, I've had a very good response to that, by the way. I want to thank everybody indeed for responding to, because you, not me, you happily took a picture of my poem and put it out.
Yes.
And people have blown it up and read it and come back with tears in their
And
eyes saying, what a sensitive soul
let me
I
ask
am.
you a question, because a lot of people have asked me this question on
Yes,
Twitter.
yes.
You know, did you nick the poem? Which I said absolutely not.
No.
Of course not. But where did you get the title of it from? Candida Pax.
I'll tell you what.
Because
I know
there was a band.
ridiculous.
There was a band called that, apparently.
No, it wasn't. The band wasn't called that, but the band you're talking about, who did Tie Yellow Ribbon Round the Old Oak Tree.
Yeah, no, that was Dawn.
Yeah. Their second record was called Candida.
Was it?
Candida.
Oh, yeah, we can make it together.
We can make
I
it
remember
together.
that. Yeah. Well, what about Pax?
The further from here, girl, the better.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
the
right. That's
world
enough.
is nice and free.
Yeah, but there was actually a band called Candida Pax, though.
Oh, was that? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I did not know
Which
that.
somebody sent me a
Candida
piece
was
on
the
YouTube.
record, right? And I always thought Shirley looked like the girl in the video that went with it,
Yeah,
okay?
right.
And the Pax thing means peace, doesn't it?
Pax does mean peace in Latin, yeah.
So I think this was I think we must have sort of broken up at the time, you see what I mean?
Right.
And I think this was that was my equivalent of Let It Be.
Yeah.
Because Paul McCartney wrote Let It Be to... Sorry, what's the
Only
problem?
you would equate yourself with Paul McCartney.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's not that good. Steady on.
But Paul McCartney wrote Let It Be as a message to the other three Beatles saying, literally, come on, let's stop rowing with the Beatles, let it be.
Okay.
But that didn't work, and unfortunately, neither did mine. Now then, have we got some birthday tributes?
I have actually, yeah. But first of all, here's from Roy. He says, "Is Porky the Grim Reaper in disguise?" Which is not bad. Here's one from Joe, who says, "Please remind old pros like Warren Barton that when England had real men in their team, they won bugger all too." Which is a bit harsh. They came a bit closer than Roy Hodgson did.
Yes.
And David says Hodgson takes 5 strikers as defence weak. He plays 1 striker taking corners equals no strikers. Russia scores. He turns to weak defence.
Yeah, I know.
Well, indeed. Now, here's a couple of birthday wishes for you. One from Richard. Porky, my mother Rita in Nigeria turned 60. Can you wish her happy birthday in Martin O'Neill's voice?
What's her name?
Her name is Rita.
I want to tell you, Rita, happy birthday, my dear. And can I say this? Lovely Rita, Rita maid, where would I be without you?
It's Meter maid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said Rita maid.
I know, well, her name's Rita, so I changed the words.
Nicholas says this, hi to Mikes, please get Porky to shout out to my boyfriend for his 40th birthday on tonight's show, Luke from Exeter.
Yeah.
Apparently he's your biggest fan.
Luke from Exeter?
Yeah.
OK, Luke from Exeter, happy birthday, pal. At 40, aren't you a bit old to be called a boyfriend? Huh?
Well, maybe they haven't taken it that step further.
Oh, I see. Well,
where they become betrothed.
Yeah, I mean, are you partners or, you see what I mean? Or...
Well, it's interesting what people call each other, isn't it?
You see,
There's nothing wrong with boyfriend.
I think it's quite interesting.
If you start calling somebody your partner, that normally means you live together.
Yes, that's
which
right.
Maybe they don't do.
Well, you see, I think you're a boyfriend for the first 3 weeks of the relationship. Yeah. Then after that, you've got to be called something else, particularly at the age of 40.
Yeah.
I mean, look, an 18-year-old girl can have a boyfriend for 6 months.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that what's his chap's name again?
His name's Luke.
Luke. I'm assuming Luke at 40 has probably got a girlfriend of about the same age.
Yeah.
So
I don't really give an age away.
No, so does a 39-year-old woman want to keep going around talking about my boyfriend, which is very romantic and quite nice. But, I mean, normally, well, funny enough, one of the people we deal with in business, right, lovely lady, she has got a partner and she never knows what to call him.
Right.
1 minute it's my boyfriend, next minute it's my partner, next minute it's, my fella at home and all this kind of stuff.
That
you know what
doesn't
I mean?
sound like things are going well there.
Well, no, I think they're going very well.
No, it doesn't. No, because if you don't know what to call them, then that's part of the problem.
Right.
How about this one? There's another Luke here. He says it's his 40th birthday. Must be catching today. Can you give Luke and Nikki a shout-out on tonight's show, he says.
Yeah, Luke and Nikki, very happy birthday.
He doesn't say whether they're boyfriend and girlfriend.
OK, but it's Luke's birthday.
It is.
OK, Luke, have a very happy birthday, and I hope you have a long and prosperous life together.
Yeah.
Now, I have a birthday wish of my own.
Oh, right.
And it is to...
Yes.
My mum. It's my mum's birthday today, yeah.
Excellent.
Well,
very many happy returns,
and she's absolutely thrilled and made up that her birthday comes one day after Alan Brazil's, because of course it was Al's birthday yesterday,
Oh, well, there you go.
And did you say your mate in Scotland was
Donald,
also...
who was our promoter, our agent, our man who's putting on a load of stuff for us, taking us to the Edinburgh Festival.
That's right,
It's his birthday as well.
Indeed.
In fact, it's the only time of the year that we're the same age, because he's slightly younger than me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes.
Matty says this, Porky bought that bookcase to put all of his journals on, and then he can come in and tell us, listeners, another pointless story.
No, they're not pointless stories. They're very good stories indeed.
Yeah. Here's one from Dazza, who says, Gordon Strachan said today, if you can't get through a match without having a drink for 24 hours, there's something wrong with you. I don't know if he's talking about the players or the fans.
I don't know who's talking about there.
I presume he's talking about the fans.
I thought it was interesting when Warren came on, Warren Barton, lovely fella, and, been with me for 10 years, and he said, of course he went on the plane to Singapore 15 hours, of course it wasn't 15 hours of drinking.
No,
they stopped after 14 hours when the hostesses said, put your tables up, please, and put your seats forward. We're coming into Singapore.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, Mark says the old lady down my road owns 3 of those Citroens, still going strong, I guess, but very clunky looking. Yeah.
Why?
Well, maybe, because they're kind of classic cars of their kind.
I don't think so.
People who are into them are really into them, and they quite like just driving around them. And they're very handy cars to have in the city.
I tell you what's funny.
Yeah.
Matthew Wright, who does the Channel 5 morning programme.
Yes, I used to work with him.
Oh, yeah, so did I. He's been there for years, right? So he had one of these, right, when he was a lowly individual at The Sun. He was kind of number 2 or number 3 on the Bizarre column, which is then run by our old friend Piers,
That's right, yeah.
But he was incredibly dedicated, and he used to drive off to rock festivals and all that kind of stuff, Anyway, he came in one morning, absolutely distraught, and what had happened was he got involved in a road rage incident and driving to work, driving to the office.
Not very wise in a Citroën de Chevelle.
No, exactly. But you look at the design of the car, right?
Yeah.
So it happens that
I think they're very cute-looking cars.
I think they're dreadful.
Why?
Well, because they were,
no romance in your soul.
The seats in them were like the seats you used to get in the church hall, weren't they? They weren't like seats in a car. They were like a bit of canvas.
Yeah.
But anyway, he pulls up very sharply behind a car in front and shouts at the bloke, what are you doing? Brake too hard.
Yeah.
Fella got out. He thought he was going to punch him, but you know what he did? He bent off both his headlights off the car.
Well, that was what I was saying. I mean, you could literally bend the metal any way you wanted it to go.
The guy just, he shouted at me and he punched I remember him telling me he punched the bonnet and caused a big dent in it, and then got both of his headlights, twisted them, pulled them off and threw them in the gutter. So they're not a very sturdy car, believe me.
Well, they're not, but they're quite handy cars just to have to run around in the city. And I'm amazed that the French have actually kind of turned their back on them.
Yeah, well,
that seems entirely incorrect to me.
Well, I tell you what, that's a part of France they want to forget. And the faster they can, the better.
Yeah.
Now, listen. I want to tell you something. Actually, this is about food, and you know an awful lot about food, a lot more than me because you cock it.
I made a very nice chicken stew. Actually,
I saw that.
No, I didn't put that one out. I was going to, but I didn't.
Well, you put something out today, didn't you?
I put out my breakfast this morning.
Oh, what was that?
Which was a frittata.
Frittata. I don't know what a frittata is.
Frittata is like a sort of omelette, basically.
Like an omelette. Okay. Now, we have talked in the past about going to restaurants. We've talked about one of these days we'll go to, what's that great restaurant I told you about where I had lunch with Sir Bernard Ingham.
I don't know, where?
Covent Garden.
What, you mean Rules?
Rules, great restaurant. Yeah. It's the only place where I've ever seen people order truffles.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing is, I could never, when I used to be a senior executive in papers, the one thing I used to balk at when I got the expenses over from the Commons was the cost of these lunches in Rules.
Yes.
And
it's a very expensive place.
Very expensive place. But there was one particular MP who always insisted on a starter of truffles.
Yeah.
And truffles can be £80 a plate.
Know, yeah.
I mean, incredible.
There's a stall in Borough Market that does truffle oil.
Right.
And all things sort of to do with truffles.
Right.
It's very expensive stuff.
Yeah, very expensive stuff.
I'm not particularly taken by them, to be honest.
What do they taste like? Have you tasted them?
Well, sort of mushroomy. I mean, that's
mushroomy,
the whole point.
Okay, yeah, fine, okay. Anyway, the point is, so I used to say to this guy, I said, well, why did you buy him truffles? He said, well, he's a good contact, and he just ordered them. And I said, well, did he ask you? He said, no, they just do. And I said, well, what is it with truffles? He said, oh, it's a bit of a status symbol, really. Yeah. People eat them because it makes them...
I think that is, it's a bit like caviar.
Yeah, that's right. It makes them feel so. So, anyway, I then said to somebody around my desk, and to my secretary, I said, why are truffles so expensive?
Yeah.
And we tried to find out, and nobody could find out, because what I said was, well, she said they're very rare. I said, well...
It's about the process of finding them and all of that.
What I said was, somebody someday is going to make themselves a millionaire by opening a truffle farm.
Yeah.
Right? And all you do is grow truffles.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did the research just recently after seeing another... I think you and I had a conversation about truffles, right?
Yeah.
To find out that you can't farm truffles.
No.
Truffles come from the base of particular trees, and they are part of the process of that tree.
Exactly.
So, and that's why pigs have to forage for them.
That's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a very expensive and quite time-consuming thing to look for.
Yeah, listen to this. The life cycle of the truffle...
Save the time, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm telling our listeners about the life cycle of a truffle.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think they're interested? Because I do.
No, well, not now.
What?
No, look at the time. It's like, nearly 17 minutes past 2.
Hey?
It's nearly 17 minutes past 2.
But the truffle, people don't know about a truffle.
Hold on to the truffle, right? Hold on to it. Keep that thought, keep the odour in your head, and we will come back to it. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Late at night, knelt by my bed, started to pray. The words I said just hit that wall. They didn't get through. Oh, what's the use? I will never know you. No, I won't.
You'll never guess who this is.
That sounded like...
I mean, you never guess it in a million years.
No, hang on.
Doesn't matter who you think it sounds like.
I think that I know who that was. That was like Eric Clapton type person.
Well, no, it's not an Eric Clapton type person. It's Candida Pax.
Oh, is it?
That's
oh,
the
right.
band.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
Or they might have taken the name of their band from my poem.
Yeah, very possibly.
Yeah. What are you laughing at?
How about this from Scott, who says, Porky never has to think about a name for his partner, but I bet it would be Her Indoors.
No, it wouldn't be.
And Robbie says, stop going on about that stupid poem, Porky. It's too long, it's over the top, and it makes no sense.
Well, you've obviously read it then, whoever you are, correspondent, because how would you know it was all those things if you hadn't?
Well, you must have read it, but I mean, sometimes you read things you wish you hadn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see things you wish you hadn't.
Now, I've got
you
a
never
few.
Get your life back.
Got a few tweets here from people saying, please could you continue with the life cycle of the truffle, okay?
Yeah, all right.
Right.
I doubt you've got any of those.
In scientific terms, truffles are a group of edible mycorrhizae fungi.
What?
Okay?
Fungi is good enough, isn't it?
It's
I've already told you all this.
C-O-R-R-H-I-Z-A-L. Sorry, mycorrhizal fungi. It's mycorrhizal fungi.
Yeah.
The most well-known truffles are subterranean fungi of the genus Tuber class Ascomycetes.
Tuber.
Yeah, this is all boring stuff.
Yeah, it's really crap.
It's really boring. Anyway, to get down to it,
I once
truffles...
had truffle vodka.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was quite nice.
Where was that in?
What do you mean, what was it in?
Was it in Russia?
No, it was in America, I think.
America, okay. Yeah. Right, basically, truffles require calcareous soil, okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No.
That have high pH and calcium levels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In Europe, these conditions are best found in southern France, but there are similar areas in the UK, such as the Chilterns, the North and South Downs, Hampshire, Wiltshire, and westwards
Wiltshire was a good place.
And westwards into Dorset.
Yes.
And the area between Hull and Lincoln. But the problem for the truffle is distribution. They require animals, usually porcine, that's pigs, to detect and consume them and so disperse their spores.
All right.
Oh, I see. That's the only way you can find them. Yeah. Anyway, that's basically it. They grow near trees and they grow underground near trees, so you need, a pig with a very sensitive snout to find them.
Yes.
And that's why they're so expensive.
Yes,
okay?
indeed. And you've never had them?
What?
Have you never had them?
I've never had them.
I've
never had them. No, seriously.
Would you like mushrooms?
I love mushrooms.
Do you?
Mushrooms are
if
great.
you like mushrooms, you probably quite like them.
Yeah, but
maybe you should try them. Well, next time we're at somewhere near Borough Market, right, we'll do a real kind of Epicurean tour.
All right.
So we'll do some oysters, and I'll take you to try some truffles.
Yeah, well, I thought you said it was truffle oil.
Well, they have truffle oil, but they also have truffles as well.
Yeah, we might try it out.
A truffle stand.
We might try it out.
All things to do with truffles.
Yes.
And you can try the truffle oil first.
Yes.
They have a little bit of bread that you can dip it in.
Oh,
right?
I see.
And you can taste that.
Yes.
See how you like it.
Have I said happy birthday to my mum yet?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah, already.
I think I just said it was a birthday. Mum, happy birthday, just in case
I don't know
she's
if you
listening.
didn't say physically happy birthday.
Well, I've said it now, yeah.
But you did say that.
Right, okay.
I've got another one here, actually, from somebody whose name is Tom, who says, you missed my mad wife's birthday the other day. She's 30.
Right.
Come on, Porkmeister, sort it out. He doesn't say what her name is.
Well, what's her name?
He doesn't say.
What's the name of the guy who's the correspondent?
His name's Tom, and his wife's mad, apparently.
Okay. Maybe her name's Madeline.
Madeline?
Is it?
Oh, what you mean? No, it's my mad wife's birthday. I don't think that
Tom,
means her name's Madeline.
Can we just wish your
mad wife?
Yeah, your mad wife a very happy 30th. Okay,
there you go.
It is the 30th, isn't it?
That's what it says.
Okay.
Max says it wasn't just Dawn; it was Tony Orlando and Dawn. Correct.
Tony Orlando and Dawn.
It was Tony Orlando and Dawn.
Yeah,
he had a moustache.
That's
wore
right.
a lot of flares.
Yeah. Now he did.
He
first
was a
of
bit
all,
of a sex symbol, according to Mac.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. First of all, they did tie your liver around the old oak tree.
Tie your liver around the old.
Tie a yellow ribbon around the oak tree. Like somebody else then, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Tie a yellow ribbon around the old tree. Now, that record, right, I, even at an age when I was, as a teenager, realised that was a pathetic record because it was trying to get the world to feel sorry for a criminal, right? Bleeding...
Well, because he'd come out of prison.
Yeah, it was a bleeding heart record, Did
it not become very popular again during the hostage crisis?
Yes, I think it did.
When Jimmy Carter was president.
Yes, I think it did, yeah.
Because everyone was tying yellow ribbons around the old oak trees and all that.
That's right. But if you listen to the lyrics of it, the bus went round the corner and I can't believe I see...
How can you remember these lyrics? How can you remember them?
1,000 yellow ribbons round the old oak
I think I actually did
tree.
have the single. I think everybody did.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, the reason why his girlfriend left him was this man was a filthy criminal.
Was he?
He'd gone around...
What was he in for?
I don't know, horse rustling or something like that, because he came from some, rural country. Horse rustling, yeah. He came from some...
I don't remember that in the song.
Well, he came from some sort of rural community, didn't he? Because you only get oak trees in rural communities.
No, you don't.
You only get... Yes, you do.
I've got an oak tree in my garden.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, that used to be a rural community. It's called... what's it called now?
Well, it's in Sussex.
Oh, in
but
Sussex,
I mean, it's not a
right.
rural community. I mean, oak trees grow all over the place.
Well...
There's oak trees in London.
Yeah.
The greatest oak in history is in Greenwich Park.
Yes, I know, but
Well,
Greenwich
it's not.
Park in itself is rural, isn't
No,
it?
it's not.
Of course it
It's
is.
in the middle of the city of London.
Anyway, don't argue.
Complete
The point
well,
is,
of course I'm going to argue with you.
I never felt any sympathy whatsoever for the subject of that song because he was a common criminal,
Right.
you know, and a scumbag.
Yeah.
but
And of course, all of your criminal acts of the past would not count you as a common criminal.
I've never committed a criminal
Yes, you
act.
have.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
Name one.
You've admitted to several.
Name
well,
one.
you've admitted to doing the diesel business when you were running the dodgy petrol place.
That was a bit of a creative accounting.
You've
that was all.
talked about exchanging the lemonade bottles or the whatever Corona lemonade that you used to deliver with other people in other shops.
That was a commercial process.
You've talked about offloading newspapers when you were a paper boy, which
sure
was
about
also a
that.
criminal activity. You sold a car in a criminal manner.
Anyway.
What do you mean anyway?
What we
I
were
haven't finished yet.
No, of course you have. What we were going to talk... The audience don't know about all that.
Yeah.
Now, what we were going to talk about was... so, Tony Orlando and Dawn, right, then brought out a second record called Candida.
Yeah.
But then they brought out a third one. Do you not remember
Roy
it?
asked me if that's a yeast infection. I don't think it is. I think
What?
he's got that wrong. Candida.
No, it's not. No. Now, do you remember the third record?
The third
It was
record.
even
No,
worse
I
than the
don't think
first
so.
two. Yeah, I'll remind you.
No,
okay?
don't sing it. No, please.
Just a
Please
bit.
don't
Here,
sing
here,
it.
Here, well, I'll give you this hint first.
Yeah, go on. Knock 3 times. Yes. Yes.
You got
I do
it.
remember
You
it.
got it.
I do remember
Knock
it.
3
Yeah.
times on the pipe
On the
if
ceiling.
you
No,
want.
it's not
On the
3 times
ceiling
on the
if you
ceiling.
want me.
Yeah.
Twice
That was
on the
awful.
pipe
That was
if
awful.
the answer is no.
Yeah.
Oh, load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it, yeah.
Oh, no, they were
Right.
terrible. There
excellent.
was some awful stuff going around in the 70s.
Yeah, there certainly was. Now, talking about that, and talking about people you admire and you don't admire and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
did you know that according to research which I've undertaken this week,
What's that?
your IQ that you have for all your life is forged in the first 15 minutes of your life. Did
Is
you
it
know
really?
that? Did you know that?
Really? That's not bad news for you then, isn't it?
Sorry?
Yes, it's bad news for you.
It's bad news for anybody who's thick,
Well, no, it's
because
bad news for
I'm
you.
afraid you can't change it after
It's
that.
bad news for you because you had to be taken back to the hospital, did you not, to have that large ball of fat
I did, yeah.
from your stomach?
Yeah.
So that must have been traumatic for you.
It was very traumatic, yes. Now, according to educational psychologists in California, they've established the G factor, which is a level of general IQ that is fixed at birth.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing that happens in your life after that, whether it be a good family, whether it be a good education, whether you work hard, will ever raise that IQ, that quotient factor.
Well, I don't think you. I mean, your intelligence level.
Yep.
You know, is never going to change. I would agree with that. You know, you can learn an awful lot of things. You can garner information. You can study and become an expert on something. But your actual level of intelligence, I've always believed you're either born with or you're not.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the other thing is that at the age of 17, according to this report, which is very extensive, you stop taking in any influences in your life that shape the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, for instance, to put it on a very basic level, most people don't like any music that they've listened to after the age of 17, and they stick with what they've listened to up to the age of 17.
That, I would say, is not true.
No, I would say it's true.
Well, you remember all the music you listened to up to the age of 17. You don't know anything else that happened after that, but that doesn't mean that you don't hear music that you like.
Hey?
It doesn't mean you don't hear music that you like, does it?
Well, the only...
Do you never sit in the car and sometimes have the music on and go, oh, that's quite a nice song?
Yes.
And you've never heard it before?
No, very rarely.
Why?
Very, very rarely.
Why?
Well, because, if I'm in the car and I'm listening to radio, so much radio, musical radio these days, including Virgin, our radio station, gives you retrospective music.
It does.
So I've heard most of the music.
Oh, yeah, but it's since you were... when you were 17, that's ancient history. I mean, there's loads of music that you've listened to and liked since you were 17.
The only group I've adopted since the age of 17 is Oasis.
Yeah, I knew you could say that.
Right? Well, it is. It is.
So you're about to listen to the Stone Roses, aren't you? You're going to buy their greatest hits.
Yeah, I'm going to.
So you should do that. Now, we're out of time once again.
Okay.
For some reason, our timekeeping this evening is very, very bad.
Yes.
Coming up, though, we are going to talk about the missing plane in the Mediterranean, the EgyptAir flight, which went missing about a month ago. Jeff Wise is going to join us and tell us what he thinks about the latest discovery. This is TalkSport.
Excellent.
we are the Two Mics. We've got loads coming up in the rest of the show. A couple of very interesting tweets about IQ coming in, so I shall get to some of those in a moment. One from Daz, who says, can your IQ actually go down? You say intelligence is set in the first 15 minutes and regardless can't be improved.
Yeah.
What about the flip side? Well, we can talk about that because it's entirely possible. I've known people in life whose IQ appears to have actually gone down.
Well, that might be because they suffer, sadly, some sort of mental problems as they get into old age.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you noticed this in the last few hours. It was reported on the news that EgyptAir flight MS-804, which vanished over the eastern Mediterranean on Thursday the 19th of May, which hasn't been seen really since, despite a couple of false alarms, they think has now been located. And we're going to talk to Jeff Wise now, a man we've spoken to in the past, a bit of an expert on lost planes. Jeff, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks very much. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely
Great
right.
to hear from
now,
you.
we know you've done a book previously on the plane that wasn't there about MH370. We might come back to that in a moment. But does it look as if this might be the real thing that they found in the Mediterranean?
Well, that's what we're hoping. But, this case, as you know, has been so plagued by bad information. Reports keep coming out and then either get withdrawn or just turn out not to be true. And, 2 weeks ago, we had reports that the French had detected these acoustic pings that the black boxes put out. And, of course, the black boxes are really the holy grail. Those are the devices that have the data in them that will tell us exactly what happened. So, anticipation was running hot. But then nothing. 2 weeks go by. If those pingers had really been active, it would have been a matter of hours before they should have found the things.
Right.
So we're hearing. There was reports just a couple of days ago saying that the pinger's batteries are going to run out in a couple of days. You may remember there was talk similar to this when MH370 first went missing. But, I think that the black box pingers haven't been working at all because otherwise, like I said, they would have found it. So it looks like probably what happened is they were able to find the general area where this plane went. They assumed the plane went down, and then they started doing a seabed scan. Now, nobody said this, but that's what I'm assuming must have happened because otherwise it would have been easy.
Well, what I'm looking at is a statement released late last night from our time, still obviously last night your time, as it were, from Egyptian investigators who say that one of the ships that they've been using, the John Lethbridge, has somehow found several main locations on the sea floor between Crete and the Egyptian coast. So that would kind of tally with what you're suggesting.
Yeah, and so the implication is that they found some big chunks of wreckage, but not the black boxes.
Right.
This is great. They've sort of, because planes, when they crash, they tend to stay in a certain, the debris could float on the surface quite far, but the stuff that's heavy, the stuff that sinks, it's going to be in a fairly tight cluster. So if this is true, and unfortunately, if it was anyone but Egypt at this point, we have to put that caveat in there. Assuming this is true, they're going to be close. They must be close. Those black boxes have to be nearby.
Now, Jeff, if they found the largely intact aeroplane on the seabed, would they raise it, or is there a problem here with the war graves type thing where you don't disturb wreckage and all this kind of stuff? Because the only way they're going to find out what happened, basically, is to examine it piece by piece, like they did with the Pan Am plane that was blown up over Lockerbie.
Yeah, they did a similar thing with the TW-800 that blew up over Long Island. It depends. They find the black boxes and it's pretty clear what happened. You remember Germanwings, right? They found the black boxes. It was. They didn't have to piece that plane back together. It was clear what happened.
Yeah.
Now, if they read everything they can off the black boxes and they still can't figure out what the heck happened, and they think that by trying to reconstruct a plane, now you get the feeling from the condition that the few pieces that they've found are in, this thing probably hit the water going pretty fast.
Yeah. So there won't be a lot of it intact, you mean?
No, the opposite. It's probably in shreds. Probably shredded.
That's what I mean. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
right.
Yeah, and is the other problem
the multiple pieces? Go ahead.
So is the other problem the fact that, of course, there may still be a lot of bodies inside that plane, and therefore you've got the problem of how do you treat that? Does it become like sacred? I don't know, wreckage and that sort of stuff.
No, it's like once in a while they'll find a World War II sub and they'll think, okay, the servicemen are in the sub. Let's just leave it to be sacred. With an air crash, it's like the bodies. Most families, I think, would want to have their loved ones' remains returned for proper burial and so forth.
Right.
And plus, there's this added thing of as you say, if it's going to be important to have that stuff to reconstruct the condition of the airframe, we're going to get it. But Air France 447, which was very deep, a lot of that was left.
Yes.
It depends on the case.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, we discovered, Jeff, after the disappearance of flight MH370, that there was quite a surprising lack of kind of almost what you might call just GPS satellite navigation type stuff. I've got a text here from a guy called Mike who says, why don't planes use satellite navigation like the AIS system used in shipping? And he says he could look at any ship anywhere in the world. And I thought after MH370 disappeared that they were going to try and improve somehow what was in the cockpit so that you could always track a plane.
Well, here's the thing you got to remember about MH370. That all that equipment was present and operating. The problem with MH370 is that whoever was on that plane turned it off. Uh-huh. They wanted to make that plane disappear. The primary thing about MH370 is that it was an act of vanishing.
Right.
They wanted to vanish. And so, why? Was it because of suicide? Was it because of something else? That's to be determined. But what's clear is that if human beings can design a system to do something, another human being can outwit that system.
Right.
That's the problem.
And as far as this particular plane is concerned, the EgyptAir flight, 66 people were on board, and Egypt's investigation committee said earlier this week that radar images showed the plane swerved violently and changed direction and then turned 360 degrees before crashing. Does that give you any clues as to what might have happened to it?
Yes. I mean, it's not the case of something like MH17, which was, blown apart by a missile and kind of just immediately started tumbling to the ground. It sounds like something where the pilot had some degree of control.
Yeah.
Now, in Korean Airlines 007, which was also hit by a missile, an air-to-air missile in that case, also the pilot was able to remain somewhat in control. So it doesn't narrow it down very much, but... unfortunately, to get back to where I started with this, is that we just don't really know what to trust. Early on, we had reports that the Egyptians saw one thing on radar, the Greeks saw another. They disputed the facts for a while. Then we had this ACARS data that was reported that showed that there was some indication of perhaps smoke inside the cockpit. It sounds, if I had to guess, it sounds like some kind of incendiary, some kind of fire, where the pilot, the plane wasn't immediately destroyed. It wasn't kind of a runaway, catastrophic situation, but probably the pilots were able to fight it for some time. But there's so much that remains mysterious about this case. One of the, there's different clues that we can use to find a plane when it vanishes in a situation like this, which is similar in some ways to MH370 or Air France 447, where you have the plane disappears from secondary radar from the air traffic controllers, but then it's also seen on primary. It disappears from that. You've got the ACARS. You've got these emergency locator transmitters that apparently detected the plane, but in a somewhat different different spot, which again would indicate that the plane flew on for quite some time if that report is accurate. This whole case really baffles me.
Yeah.
The information that we've got really doesn't add up, and I'm very curious to find out. No, time and again with these air crashes, in the early days, information comes out that turns out not to be true.
Yeah, Jeff, it's so important this to try and crack it, because for all we know, aeroplanes could be flying around the world at this very moment with the same problem that hasn't yet erupted that brought this plane down.
Well, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right, and especially in the wake of... to my mind, we live in a kind of a post-MH370 world in which things just seem spooky. Because we want to know what this was brought down by a normal thing. We don't want planes just vanishing anymore.
No, exactly.
It's not good.
That would not be
Certainly
good.
Don't, no.
Well, listen, Jeff, I really appreciate you taking
Thank
time
you
to
very
talk
much
to us.
indeed, Jeff.
We may learn more over the course of the next 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that. But the news is certainly that they believe they may have located the wreckage of this EgyptAir flight on the bottom of the Mediterranean. We'll bring you more news on that as it comes in, of course.
Yeah. Do you ever worry about getting on a plane?
Not really. No,
I've never ever had the slightest.
No. There was a time when I was in the States in the 80s. There were a lot of plane crashes, and I used to go to a lot of plane crashes.
Yeah.
That I started to learn more about planes than I really wanted to know.
Yeah, sure.
And what I used to find myself doing was looking at the rivets as I was getting into the actual plane.
See if they were bursting off.
To see if they were loose or anything like that.
Bodywork, yeah.
And I worried about the G-force of the seats and all that, but not anymore.
I'm completely fake listing about it. When I get on an aeroplane, I think if this plane goes down, I go down with it. That's tough.
Well, that's pretty much going to happen.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and funny enough, what was amazing was the account of the last minutes of those people on the plane that was brought down on 9/11 day.
Yeah.
They brought it down themselves, didn't they? They
the one in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they attacked the kidnappers, and what was the last words? Okay, let's roll.
Yeah.
And they knew they were going to be killed.
Yeah.
They were all sending messages via their phones to home saying, I love you, goodbye, and all this kind of stuff. Just imagine that. Just imagine knowing we've probably got about 10 minutes left to live.
I know.
Amazing.
Must be a horrible way to go.
Well, yes and no, but I mean, at least you're in control of your own destiny. You know exactly when you're going to die.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I suppose so. But anyway,
I wouldn't scream if the plane was heading, down. And
you?
No, if everybody else was screaming, I'd say, look, calm down. It's just inevitable. Don't worry about it. You won't know anything about it. It'll be a split second, honestly.
Very zen of you.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Oh, my darling, knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want me. Twice on the pipe if the answer is no. Oh, my sweetness.
I never thought I'd ever hear that song again.
Yeah, neither did I.
I'm not sure I want to, actually.
I must admit,
It really
it's
is
one of the
pretty
worst songs
appalling,
ever, isn't it? Absolutely shocking.
Now, how about this from Woodenhead? He says, if you ever need a new feature, you should do one where Mike Graham gives Parry a modern album to listen to, and he reviews it.
Yeah?
We could do that.
Yeah, I could do that, yeah.
Paul says, in my 20s, I discovered the joys of David Bowie and Serge Gainsbourg and never looked back. That's a ridiculous study you mentioned.
Because that was Je t'aime, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And talking about Glasto, apparently, according to El Cuervo, Gary, he says they have a stand-up comedy tent at Glasto, or I think it's called a cabaret tent.
Oh, do they?
So, yeah, they do, yeah.
Oh, well, I could have a look at that. Now, the great one... Sorry, mate.
Go
Go
on.
on, yeah.
I was going to say, Brendan on the same subject, he says, Glastonbury so much more than music, Porky. They have comedy sets, debating tents, workshops, etc. And he says, you'd love it, MG. I probably would.
Yeah, but I would not relish splashing around in the mud, the blood and the beer, to use Johnny Cash's...
Sounds a bit like Royal Ascot.
Yeah, that's right. A bit like Royal
muddy,
Ascot.
this week.
Now then, old William, who's a regular correspondent, sends a note. This is rather touching. Happy birthday to Porky's mum.
Yeah.
And thanks to her for bringing the man of the people and the seeker of truth and justice into the world. Isn't that great?
Right?
That great? I think that's great, yeah.
Right.
And David is mocking my poetic talents, my literary skills, saying, start of Porky's new collection of poems. My teeth is as white as a tin of Dulux paint.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly somebody also raised... Do you remember when you said you were going to make a poem up about the speed camera? Which I think you did,
oh, yes.
sort of almost instantly one time.
Oh, did I?
And somebody remembered it, and it was something about a yellow box.
Oh, yeah,
and it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And so there are those who say, are you sure it's the same man?
Yeah, of course it was.
Having come up with that Candida Pax thing, which
Yes.
is not bad at all.
Now, listen,
suddenly get into this yellow box thing, which was bloody awful, frankly.
No.
Yeah, it was.
No, it was instant. It was like, Bob Monkhouse used to write instant poetry, and I could do it as well as him. Now, funnily enough, I've got a note here from Skywalker, okay?
Yeah.
Which I think is just a name for his...
I don't think it's his real name.
No, I don't know his name.
Is his name Luke, by any chance?
No, it's not. And it says, somebody please not to get a photo of Porky dressed as Frank-N-Furter.
Frank-N-Furter, yeah, from the Rocky Horror Show.
Oh, that's from the Rocky Horror Show, right.
He's the guy that Tim Curry played in the film, with the stockings and suspenders and all that.
Oh, I see.
Somebody's bound to do it.
Well, anyway, listen, because you just said it was the anniversary of something. What was it? A few minutes ago.
The anniversary of something?
Yeah.
Was Rudolf Nureyev.
Rudolf Nureyev dying, yeah.
Defecting to the West.
Oh, defecting to the West, yeah. Guess what I can tell you it's the anniversary of?
What can you?
The 200th anniversary of the writing of Frankenstein.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he said Frankenfurter, so that's close. Mary Shelley's novel. 200 years ago it was published today.
Right.
June the 16th, 1816.
Ever read it?
No.
Why not?
Well, I've seen the film.
Yeah, but you would want to read the book, though.
Not really.
It's a bit more of a kind of a dramatic story if you actually read the book rather than... Which film have you seen?
Oh.
Because there's loads of them.
Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, probably.
You know.
Yeah, something like
Peter
that.
Cushing's one. Or...
Yeah, Peter Cushing. Yeah, definitely. You know, the old big monster lying on the table, and they plug him in, and he's away, and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I mean, for
I
instance, you say that, but have you ever read Bram Stoker's Dracula?
I think I have. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I had a
okay.
bit of a penchant for horror stories when I was a kid.
Really?
So I used to read them all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another one which is a lot more kind of dark and interesting and
Yes.
sinister in the book form than it is in any of the movies.
Yes, is it? Right.
Yeah, it is.
So what can I tell you? There is a Frankenstein castle in Germany where a mad alchemist lived around 1700.
Yeah.
And it's thought that the whole thing was based on him. He was called... the mad alchemist lived in the Frankenstein castle, so they named their character Frankenstein after the castle.
Okay.
It was a dark and ponderous place.
Really?
Do you know how old Mary Shelley was when she wrote Frankenstein?
She was very young, wasn't
she? was 18.
Yeah, very young.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yes.
Incredible. Now, we've got to do listography coming up in the next hour.
Yeah,
so
okay.
If I throw a
I've
few...
seen some good suggestions on that today.
Well, you know, people were firing loads of them
Yes,
in throughout
yes.
the course of the day.
That's
and
right.
The most annoying thing about many of my information devices here,
Yes.
which I have in front of me,
Yes.
is that basically they don't throw up every single one that I know that I've read.
Right.
Because some people don't have... One guy actually followed your example and went hashtag listology,
Right.
which you said by accident the
Yes.
other day,
Yes.
and he picked up on. So
Yes.
if you do try and put hashtag listography on it,
Yes,
and you
please.
should be able to get them all.
Yes, you should, yeah.
But there was some here. Most famous person met. Purchases.
I quite like that.
Town lived in. Most famous person met.
Or purchases.
All purchases.
Yeah, what do you want to do?
Well, we've kind of done purchases, I think.
Let's do most famous
I've
person
got,
met.
Liza says the 3 worst albums you ever bought, which I quite like as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Don't mind that one.
Yeah.
We've also got 3 favourite journalists. Yeah.
Well, that's a bit in-house.
Your top 3 personal fashion disasters.
I like that. I like that.
Actually wore.
I like that.
Fashion disasters.
Fashion disasters.
Should we do that?
Yeah.
That's from Saint Hatch.
Okay.
3 favourite mics. Your 3 favourite songs of all time. I
think we've done that.
Feels like we've done that as well.
Yeah.
3 worst decisions. 3 favourite animals.
Yep.
3 people you regard as being most influential in your life.
I like the fashion thing, really.
Should we do the fashion?
I quite like the fashion
Okay.
thing.
All
Yeah,
right,
do you want to do that?
We can do that coming up in the next hour.
Yep.
We'll give it some thought.
Yep, we do.
Well, I mean,
Will
you could
indeed.
just describe what you're wearing tonight, and that'll do.
What I'm wearing tonight?
Yeah.
Have you put out a picture of yourself tonight?
Yeah, well, no, I haven't. I haven't needed to.
Your left... right, OK, I'll explain to you, folks.
You take a picture of me if you want.
Yeah, I will. The left sleeve is yellow, blue and black striped.
Blue and blue, actually.
Yeah, that connects to the left half of the shirt, which is pink, white and black striped.
Yeah.
The middle of the shirt, where the buttons are, is green and blue striped.
Yes.
The right-hand side is light blue and
nice,
white
isn't it?
striped. And I can't see the right...
The right arm is pink.
Right arm is it's a mess. I'm going to take a picture of it.
It's very colourful.
It is a terrible mess.
It's quite colourful.
It's a mess.
It's a nice shirt.
It's not.
It's very comfortable.
I don't know why. I think you've run out of shirts. It must be.
No, I haven't, no.
I think so. I'm taking a picture
I will never
of it right
run
away.
out of shirts.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
The 2 mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
This is a great one here from Robbie, who's tweeted it. He says, how brave is Porky saying he wouldn't scream on a plane that's about to crash?
Yes.
Plank.
What do you mean?
Well, what's the point of saying it?
Well, because, I wouldn't be like all the others. Help God and all this kind of stuff. I would just sit there very calmly and await my fate, because the moment the plane hit the ocean or the mountain or whichever we were heading for, it's all over. It's just a blink. It's gone.
Yeah, all right. Porky says, Steve...
I'd find it
Milton
quite
Keynes-
interesting, actually.
Interesting?
Yeah.
If I was crashing to the ground from 30,000 feet, I can think of nobody I would like to be alongside me. Mm-hmm. I presume he means other than you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is a compliment.
Yes.
And then Scott says, that's a good description of Porky's start to the show. Big monster on the table and plug him in.
Yeah.
That's very good.
That's very nice, isn't it?
That's very good.
Yeah, very nice.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, I meant to mention this to you earlier. When I was driving home from work this morning,
Yes.
I heard on the radio that there was going to be this big flotilla of boats coming up the Thames. And I
Right.
thought for a moment, unfortunately, they were at Tilbury Docks. And I
Right.
thought I could have stood outside my apartment and watched them all go by, because I thought
Yes.
it would be quite interesting to
Yes.
watch all these,
Excellent.
Brexit boats going up and down the
Yeah.
river. There was going to be a load of Scottish trawlers and fishermen and all that kind of thing. But did you see what happened? It's made its way to the front page of some of the papers.
Yes.
Bob Geldof sticking 2 fingers up
Yeah, I know.
to Nigel Farage and his ilk.
and the people who want to get out.
Yeah. I mean, extraordinary scenes. Never seen anything like it. Apparently the police had to kind of patrol the river to make sure that the two sets of opposing boats, it was like a sort of modern-day mini-armada battle.
Who initiated the armada, and then who set out to scuttle it,
Nigel Farage initiated it because he wanted to make the point that basically, the Scottish fishermen have not had the rights to fish their own waters since the EU has been in its inception.
Yes.
And they're only allowed to fish something like 20% of the fish out of the sea.
Right.
However, he said to make that point, he wanted to come up the river and basically, sail up to Parliament, have a little demonstration on the water. It was quite a good idea if you like that sort of PR stunt.
And of course, in front of the House of Commons, so all the drunks who are posed as politicians on the terrace,
all out on the terrace. So it was quite a good idea.
Gin.
However, it all kind of went a bit wrong because Geldof then apparently decided that he would launch this sort of opposing flotilla who would meet them kind of halfway. Yeah. And there's some astonishing scenes.
Yeah, but it's a great for publicity for whichever cause.
Well, for whichever cause
initiated it.
But of course, it ended up, as ever, in sort of ignominy, because Geldof, I saw in the news, had a big loud hailer and was just shouting abuse at Farage. Yeah. And Farage, who was being interviewed, was saying, well, this guy's a multi-millionaire, sort of, middle class. That's right, whatever. He shouldn't be sticking his nose in it. And actually, and all the honest-to-goodness fishermen were saying, well, why is this guy sticking his nose in? I mean, he's not actually British, to be fair.
No, he's Irish,
at the
isn't
end of the day.
But do you know what? And I hope this doesn't sound insensitive.
No.
Whenever I see Bob Geldof protesting about anything or going public, I can't help but wonder whether he should be a public figure anymore after the death of his daughter, Peaches, which was such a shocking thing to have happened.
Yes, absolutely.
She died of a drugs overdose, and of course he came originally from the world of pop, which, for instance, Peaches Geldof's mother died of a drugs overdose, as did the
terrible lot of tragedies.
Well, I was going to say, as did the man to whom she was betrothed, Michael Hutchins.
But he's always been very active in all these things.
Yeah, but I just think you should have a low profile in life now. When a tragedy like that hits you, I think it must be very, very difficult to.
You can't really tell people how they should deal with their own tragedy.
And I don't want to. All I'm doing is I'm thinking aloud on whenever I see Bob Geldof. The only thing I can think about is the tragedy of his daughter and her horrible death. She was a beautiful young girl, beautiful young lady. She has a mother of 2 children, and she sort of dabbled in journalism, so you kind of knew a bit about her and that kind of thing. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
I mean, sure. I've met Bob Geldof, and I think he's done.
He's a character.
He's a character, and he's done some brilliant. Like I did quite like him. Yeah. He's done some brilliant campaigning work. He's a very lively figure, larger than life and all that. But that's all I can say. That's all I reflect on. Whenever I see him now, I don't reflect on the fact that, he mounted a campaign to save people starving in Ethiopia. I only think about the fact that the poor man's daughter died,
sure.
And the tragedy must still be with him.
Now, I've got some bad news for you.
Oh, yes.
So far, one reaction to my shirt picture that you've put out,
yes,
which I've just retweeted from Gemma,
yes,
who says it looks nice.
I think it looks
She's giving me lots of thumbs up. Well, I mean, to be honest, being told by you that I'm wearing what you describe as a fashion disaster is, in the words of Geoffrey Howe, like being savaged by dead sheep. This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 mics. I'll just read some of these in order, actually, although I've just noticed as well that Mr. Levine has posted that his mother, Helen, has also got a birthday today as well. So she shares a birthday with your mother.
Well, indeed.
So there you are.
A very happy birthday to Mrs. Levine.
He says it was yesterday. Sorry.
Oh, it was yesterday. Oh, very happy birthday yesterday.
Now, I'm going to read. I've already mentioned Gemma saying that she thought thought my shirt looked nice.
Right.
Eklim has said, oh, wow, did MG sew it himself?
Yeah, well, it looks like you might have sewn it when you were bladderated.
But he spelt sew, S-O-W.
Yeah.
So what he knows about English, I'm afraid.
I'm
not
exactly.
Quite sure. JPK says, can you reciprocate with a shot of Porky's shoes? By the way, he is right. You could do much better. Robbie says, great colourful shirt, MG. Suits your colourful personality, unlike Porky's coach driver shirts. Yeah. Road to nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Liz says, think it looks great, really funky. Ignore Porky. What he knows about fashion could fit on a postage stamp.
Oh, yes.
Hashtag groovy baby.
Really?
John says, no smiles. That's what working with Porky does to you. Yeah. But it's quite a nice shirt.
Yeah.
Richard said, looks like a packet of flumps. Don't know what that is.
I don't know what a flump is.
What a flumps.
No, I don't know.
Johnny says, who cares about fashion, though, eh? I don't. Sammy says, Brooks Brothers, correct, it is a Brooks Brothers shirt. Dee says, didn't know MG was an ice cream seller. And Si says, thank God it's radio with a shirt like that.
Yeah,
and Nick says, better than your blue shirts and purple trousers, Porky.
Oh, really? Yeah, well,
so I think all in all, I would say it's been a roundly great success.
Do you think so? Yeah, I don't think so at all. Listen, have we told the world yet that one of the red top tabloid newspapers tomorrow is revealing the fact that Taylor Swift, who is probably the world's most famous woman singer, is she?
I suppose you might say that.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know.
really?
she's more famous than Beyonce. Probably about the same.
Yeah, about the same, okay.
Yeah.
And Lady Gaga, maybe, into the same category.
Yeah, well, she's a bit past it now, Lady Gaga, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a bit, yeah. But Taylor Swift, who I think is about 20... she's 26, actually. I'm just reading the story here.
Yeah.
Appears to be canoodling. That's a nice word, isn't it?
Canoodling, yeah, very nice word.
With Tom Hiddleston.
Yes.
Who is the man who's...
One of your heroes.
And definitely one of my heroes. The guy who's in The Night Manager and the man who is widely tipped to be the next James Bond.
Yeah, right.
And it says here, kiss tenderly together in an idyllic spot overlooking the sea.
Yes.
In a picture that reveals their secret romance to the world.
It's in Rhode Island, is it not?
Is it Rhode Island?
I believe it's
Rhode Island,
yeah.
US. Rhode Island's the smallest state in the Union.
It is, I think, yeah.
And we went there for a wedding.
We did indeed.
Remember?
Well, it's very beautiful sort of seafront properties there.
Yeah, and
remember they had the America's Cup there, didn't they, a few years ago?
They did,
well,
yeah.
many years ago.
Yeah, they did. But the wedding we went to was on the lawn, which stretched literally from the house all the way down to the ocean.
Well, that's what they all do.
Yeah.
You know, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. I mean, it's just, in fact, there's a part of Rhode Island where you can drive around and see those houses from the front.
Yes.
Because it's a bit like sort of Bishop's Avenue.
Yes, that's right.
You know, it's all the old blue bloods and
that's right. Yeah.
All the wasps and all that. Kind
Absolutely.
Of thing. Yeah.
Now listen, something else I want to
Although
draw.
I was suffering very badly with tonsillitis, I seem to remember.
Were you?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I got on a plane. I remember getting on a plane and just feeling like absolute death. But I promised to come because I was living back in England at the time, I think.
Didn't your sister come by car, a big 4x4?
I was driving it, yeah, Jeep Cherokee.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
First time I tried to stop it at the lights, I overshot the lights by about 100 feet because it was so heavy. Well, because it's such a heavy car.
Yeah.
And I was coming. I wasn't going that fast.
Right.
I came to this kind of stoplight.
Yeah.
Put my foot on the brake.
Misjudged the brake.
Yeah, and it started to slow down, but not quickly enough. And I was like, oh God, you know. And finally, I was halfway over the crossing, but so
you could have caused it an absolute tragedy.
I could have done.
Now, something I want to tell you about actually.
Yeah.
And I've been looking at this for 2 or 3 days, and it's going to come to the public attention because I'm absolutely outraged.
What are you?
Absolutely outraged. What's happened is, and the first report came to me 3 days ago, is that, excuse me, a load of rowers from Cambridge University are currently practising on the River Cam.
Right.
And they are killing loads of ducks.
What, because of the rowing?
Because of the rowing.
Right. Isn't the River Cam a rather calm sort of oasis of water? Because I've often heard Mark Saggins talking about punting up and down the River Cam.
Yeah, well, you can. And you can punt on the Isis in Oxford as well. They're both calm rivers. It's where they practice for...
But, I mean, the bit that you punt on isn't terribly wide. It doesn't look very suitable for rowing.
The bit that you punt on is in the town centre. The rest of it, as it goes out to the sea, is where they practice the rowing, OK?
OK.
You see what I mean?
So it's a bit more further downstream, if you like.
Much further downstream.
Yeah.
But what's happening is, and the first report came in 3 days ago, a woman crew, that's a woman crew of 8, and, you know, for some unknown reason, because of the way we've developed, you'd think women had a more compassionate heart for ducks than men.
Why?
Well, because you just think they do.
Would you?
Well, because you would. Because you know
you
would.
think women are more compassionate than men, is that what you're saying?
They're more compassionate to wildfowl sometimes.
I don't think that's true.
Anyway, the point is, what they did is they literally rowed at speed straight through a collection of ducks that was mother and ducklings and decapitated a duckling.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And it was witnessed by people, because if you think about it, those oars are called blades, and they're called blades because when you turn them out of the water, they are a blade.
Yeah.
And they cut a duck's head off.
Sure.
Now, apparently, there have been other instances since then, and reports are now coming in. And what really disturbs me is that these people are Cambridge University students.
Yeah.
Both male and female, they're supposed to be amongst the brightest of us in the country.
Well, I mean...
And if the brightest people in the country have no compassion for families of ducks and go around chopping their heads off just because they want to do a bit of rowing, then in my view, they should be prosecuted. Huh?
Well, prosecuted for what?
Prosecuted for...
duck beheading?
Yes.
Well, I don't think it's such a crime.
Well, I can tell you something. The RSPCA are going to get involved.
Well, you throw bread at them, which is just as bad. Because it gets lodged in their throat and they die.
Don't be silly.
Every single duck specialist
No duck has ever died.
Yeah, but every single duck specialist will tell you that you shouldn't be giving them bread.
Utter rubbish.
No, it's not rubbish.
No duck has ever died from eating bread.
That's not
Cambridgeshire
true.
Police have confirmed the deaths and said the incidents are being referred to the RSPCA. Horrified onlookers alerted police after claiming rowers were ignoring the birds despite warnings from people watching from the bank of the River Cam.
Well, what are they supposed to do?
5 ducklings...
I mean, there's fish in the river as well. Are they supposed to make sure there's no fish swimming around in case they whack them on the head with a row, with an oar?
You can't see fish. you can see the ducklings.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you can't hurt fish, does
You're
it?
actually massacring these little beautiful creatures. 5 ducklings and a cygnet have died. 5, I didn't realise this. That's 6 altogether.
Yeah.
Have died now during the university's bumps event.
You'd think the mother duck would have more sense and take them out of the way.
Oh, rubbish. How can a mother duck who's sitting there with all her brood and then a rowing 8 comes round the bend?
Yeah, but if they're doing it on a regular basis, surely animals are fairly clever about these things. They get out of the way.
They're not clever enough to get out of the way. I think it's absolutely brutal and horrible. The rowers must have seen the ducks, says one onlooker, as they were right by them. It was horrible to watch. I was absolutely furious and shouting at the boat afterwards. I don't understand why they have to have these bumps races. You know what a bumps race is?
No, what is that?
It's where one boat takes off and then the second boat has to try and catch up with it, and when it does, it bumps into the back of it to indicate that they've caught up.
Oh, and so then they've won, presumably.
Yeah, they've won, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, they've got to practice their rowing somewhere, haven't they?
I think it's disgusting.
Well, I don't know why.
I think these people are disgusting. We give people brains to improve the world, not to go around massacring our wildlife.
Yeah.
They should be prosecuted
they're
immediately.
hardly massacring the wildlife.
They certainly are. If they've killed 6 ducks and 6 ducklings and a cygnet.
Well, have you been to the local butchers lately?
Damn
seen,
disgrace.
The ducks hanging up. You've been to Chinatown and seen the ducks hanging up that you can eat. Where do you think they came from?
They're killed humanely in the food chain. You don't massacre ducks that are sweetly poodling around on the River Cam.
Yes.
It's an absolute damn disgrace, and I want it ended now. I want it stopped.
Well, another failed campaign coming up, is it?
Well, it's not a failed campaign. I'm going to make sure it works, okay?
Now, I don't know if you saw this earlier on today.
Yes.
If you pay your attention to our internal monitoring screen, you'll see Oscar Pistorius in a courtroom in South Africa.
I can't bear to see the images.
Isn't
I
it
hate
awful?
it. It's terrible. He's walking around on his stumps, right? And he's doing this quite clearly in an effort to elicit huge amounts of sympathy from the judge. Remember, there's no jury this time. It's a sentencing case in which a judge has to sentence him to a number of years in prison.
That's right.
And he is trying to elicit sympathy from the judge by. What is defence?
They're saying that when he doesn't have his false legs on, that basically he's a very vulnerable character.
His defence barrister is saying, just look how distraught he is without his legs on. As you quite rightly say, he feels vulnerable. He feels overprotective towards
ashamed
himself,
as well, humiliated.
Yeah, ashamed, humiliated, all that kind of stuff.
I wonder sometimes, you know, when people do these things in the name of the legal defence team or something like that, they're actually doing more damage to the guy by making him do that in front of the courthouse.
I think you're right.
You know.
But one point that's not been pointed out in the reports I saw is that during the course of the trial, in which he was found guilty initially of culpable homicide, which is our equivalent of manslaughter in this country, it was never firmly established whether or not he had his prosthetic legs on at the moment that he blasted 4 bullets. Double-barreled bullets through the door of the bathroom. He says he didn't. He says he scrambled across the floor, but evidence was produced at the trial to show that there was no evidence of a scramble across the carpet of the floor. And therefore there was a challenge to it to say, no, you did have your legs on. He said, no, I didn't. And that's why I fired, because I couldn't move. Because without my legs I can't move properly. If the man had come, the person who I thought was in the bathroom had come running out. It's a real conundrum.
It really is, terrible situation. Now here's one from Charlie who says, hold on, don't the rowing crew have their backs to the forward direction? How could they see the ducks then, Porky?
Because the people on the banks were shouting at them and warning them, please stop or divert.
You might not know
slow
exactly
down.
what they're saying.
Ducks are in the way. They knew they were there. If they've killed 6, they must have known there were ducks on the river, and they should have been much more sensitive about it. It's a damn disgrace. You know, normally I stick up for people who are bright, and I think
you get far too carried away about it.
I do like the upper classes because, as you know, I fear poverty. But you can't act like that. That's arrogant beyond belief, and it's horrible, and they should be disciplined in a huge way.
Yes. Scott says maybe the crime the rowers have committed is duckapitation. Which is not bad.
Oh, we're making jokes of massacring wildlife now, are we?
Yeah, well, you know, you make jokes about things all the time. This is Talk Sport, Listography coming up.
Don't phone your mother, phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Athletico Radio.
Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 Mics. Porkyvision coming up very, very shortly. That, of course, is the music that will signal our listography this morning, because it's all about fashion.
Oh, yeah?
And that's Change Your Clothes.
Excellent.
That song by Jay-Z.
Jay-Z?
Yeah, you a fan of Jay-Z?
Jay-Z? Never heard of Jay-Z.
You've never heard of Jay-Z? Of course he's a rapper.
Rapper, is he?
How can you never have heard of Jay-Z?
Well, I'm not into rappers, mate, but I can
Well,
assure
but
you.
he's more than a rapper. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a modern sort of superstar.
Is he? Yeah,
Would you prefer something a bit more like this, then? You prefer this one?
Oh, I know that is.
Yeah.
That's Bowie.
It is.
That's Bowie.
It's good fashion.
The one I would really like, and I'm pointing now to our man with the buttons,
Well, we're
is...
going to have 3 different songs.
Yeah, we do. Here, how about
There's
this one?
3 different pieces
How
of
about-
clothing.
How about this one?
Yeah.
The Kinks. He's a dedicated
follower.
follower of fashion. Look at this.
He was already anticipating that one.
Instant. Dedicated follower of fashion. Excellent. Oh, yes, he is.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, so now that you've
Right.
got your chance to give us your 3,
Yes.
I mean, this should be hilarious. I don't think 3's enough for you.
Right.
As I say, I mean, you could quite happily include whatever you're wearing tonight. What a hideous shirt you're wearing. In fact, I'll take a picture of your hideous shirt
Why?
and send it
It's
out.
a very normal shirt.
Because you said you were going to take one of mine, and
Very
which you
normal
did.
shirt.
So I'm now going to take one of you.
It's a very normal
'cause
shirt.
It's a particularly... No, leave that in there.
What?
That's a TalkSport microphone. We can leave it in. Yeah, your shirt is particularly hideous.
No,
I'd
it's
say.
not. And it's great.
All right, so let's
Yeah.
have your 3. Well, we'll start one each, shall we?
Okay.
You want to give us your first terrible fashion scenario?
Okay, my first... You see, I'm not sure that I've got any really
of course,
fashion
you
problems
think you
over
dress
the years.
very well, don't you?
I mean, I had a huge pair of platform shoes, you
Yeah.
know, which were literally 4-inch platforms with huge Cuban heels.
What colour?
Black. But I liked them, but everybody else used to take the mickey out of them.
Right.
And you had to wear trousers wide enough to drop over them, otherwise your trousers
Did you wear them to school?
were up around your ankles. No, this is after I left school.
Oh, okay.
I had these when I was about 20, I would think.
Okay.
And I suppose they were a fashion disaster in the sense that, I'll tell you who wore them, so just to give our listeners an image of the thing. Remember Slade in their pomp?
Yes.
Remember the guy who was called Super Yob, whatever his name was, with the long hair, the guitarist?
You mean Jimmy Lee?
No, Jimmy Lee was
Dave
very
Hill.
bright guy. Excuse
Jimmy
me,
Lee
Dave
was
Hill.
a drummer, wasn't he?
No, Jimmy Lee used to play the violin and the guitar.
That's right. Yeah.
Don somebody was the drummer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
But
Dave
anyway,
Hill you're talking about.
Dave
the guy who
Hill.
used to wear the silver suit.
Yeah, that's right. He used
Yeah.
to stamp around in big platform shoes, and they were the sort of shoes I used to wear in those days. So, whilst it wasn't a fashion disaster for me, because I felt quite good in them, and I thought
Could
they
you
looked quite
walk
good.
in them as well?
Yeah, I could walk in them, and they were a great. I keep saying bird puller, but I don't
do?
want to be, offensive.
Well,
They-
probably
they-
because people thought you were taller.
They were Babe Magnet type shoes. If you had a pair of those on, you'd kind of made it. They're very expensive because there's so much leather involved in them, except actually they weren't made of leather.
They're probably plastic.
And normally what happened after about 3 months, the bridge between the huge Cuban heel and the huge platform front of the shoe, which was just like a strip of sort of faux leather or something,
Yeah.
which connected the two
Faux
together.
leather, of course.
With
Your
a
favourite.
with a metal brace inside. That usually broke,
Yeah.
and the shoe was ruined and over, and you threw them away. So it was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I actually was going to put platform shoes, but I shall
Oh, okay.
bypass the platform shoes
Yeah.
because that wouldn't be right. I had there was a shop in Golders Green when I was growing up called the Orange Hand.
The Orange Hand?
which I used to go shopping in when from the age of about 14.
Have you heard of the Orange Hand of Ulster?
No, that's the Red Hand.
Oh, that's the Red Hand, yeah. Sorry, the Red Hand of Ulster, which is enforced by the Orange Lodge.
Yes, so there's a lot
exactly.
of colours involved,
Yeah.
but there's nothing yellow there
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
And I bought this horrendous denim jacket once,
Right.
which it was
Yeah.
in the same period of sort of platform shoes and
Yeah.
very, very wide flares.
Yes.
And those tall, those high trousers that you used to wear.
Yeah,
That would
I
come
do,
like,
yeah,
sort
with
of
the four
Simon-
buttons
yeah,
on the
four
waist.
buttons,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
sort of Simon Cowell style. But this denim jacket was absolutely really hit. There's a picture of me and my mother,
Right.
actually outside the church that I used to
Yeah.
be an altar boy in,
Yeah.
wearing this
Yeah.
horrendous, and it was quite a light blue denim,
Right.
but it had massive lapels,
Right.
that were probably about as wide as about 4 or 5 inches.
Okay.
and it
Yeah,
had
yeah.
one button that held in the middle, and it was just, and it had sort of stitching on it. Luckily,
Yeah.
it didn't have any rhinestones or anything like that.
Right.
But it was just really pretty hideous.
Yes,
but it was that time of the 70s. When
Sure.
an awful lot of the clothing was ghastly.
Yeah,
Horrible.
absolutely ghastly. Yeah. Now, hang on. The one that's just gone out of my head now is what was I going to say? It was.
You were going to do your second fashion faux pas.
Second fashion faux pas. Hang on, and I was thinking about it. It was so hideous that I think I've banished it from my brain. Have you got
Okay.
another one?
I'll do a second
Yeah,
one.
do a
My
second
second
one,
one
I'm
was
thinking,
was
please.
when I was in New York.
Right.
And because of the hot weather, you tended to think... I mean, I tended to buy quite light coloured
Yes.
suits. I had a very nice... sort of beige suit, which I
Right.
used to wear quite a lot. But I was going to a wedding once, and
Yes.
I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll buy a white suit.
Right.
And I used to go to this shop called Mano a Mano down in
Yes.
Soho.
Right.
And I bought this, and it was, I think it might have been double-breasted.
Right.
And it was sort of a linen-y type material.
Yes.
And it was a white suit. And again, it was, it just looked ridiculous. I mean, I don't think I think there was one picture of me taking it because I'm not sure I ever wore it.
And
ever
that was
again.
about it, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because apart from the fact that in Manhattan, you get so filthy walking around.
Yes.
It's completely impractical to wear on a daily basis. I mean, it's all very well for someone like Martin Bell.
Yes.
Who looks rather suave and sophisticated.
Sure.
In his. I just looked like Sidney Greenstreet from. The old Casablanca movie.
Casablanca,
the big fat guy sits in a white suit all the time.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah.
So that was a bad idea.
Okay. Yeah. Now, my second one, when I was 15, right, if you were really hard knock, you had a Parker.
Yes.
And it was the first time Parkers came out. I mean, they've gone in and out of fashion since then. And
wasn't this when the mods used to wear them then? Well, the mods wore Parkers in the 60s.
I don't think they did, actually. But
they did, yeah, of course they did.
Well, the sort of Parkers I had just come back into fashion, right? So it's a Liam Gallagher type thing, right? So anyway, I got money for Christmas, from relatives or something like that.
Yeah.
So in January, I said, I'm going into town. I was about 15. I'm going into town to get a new coat. And Mum said, OK, we'll get a nice coat, get a smart one. Remember, remember the golden rule. You look smart in a coat that's fit to go to church in on Sundays. I said, OK. So anyway, I went to the camping shop, whatever it was called. There was a big chain of them around in those days. Right. I can't remember what they're
Blacks,
called.
Was it maybe?
No, it wasn't Blacks. It was something else. And
Millets?
Millets. I think it was Millets. I think that's a good idea. Well done, yeah. And it sold tents and all that. But at the back of the shop were the Parkers. So I bought this Parker, fantastic, and I gave them my other coat. Yeah. It wasn't a very expensive coat. I had what we used to call a wind cheater or something on those days. I was so pleased with my Parker that I gave them the other coat and I walked around town.
Did it have the fur and everything on the hood?
Yes, it did. It had fur on the hood and everything. And I know how much it cost. It cost £4, 19 shillings and sixpence. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, that's how long ago it was.
So that was before decimalisation.
It was before decimalisation.
In 1971.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I was only 11 in 1971.
Only 11, yeah. So anyway, so what happened then was I went home. But the minute I walked through the door, my mum screamed almost, what is that, and she made me go back and take it back and get my old coat back. But my other old coat had disappeared.
Well, they'd given it to somebody else.
Well, I just disappeared.
Some tramp had been walking around.
Or whatever, it had gone. And after a desperate battle, I got my money back, but they said, well, why? Is there anything wrong with it? I said, no. I said, my mum hates it, and I've got to bring it back, and all this kind of stuff, I was petrified they weren't going to give me money back because I'd lose my £5 and not be able to buy another coat.
Shocking.
But anyway, they gave me my money back, but I had to hand the coat back in, obviously.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My final faux pas, I mean, because I could go on and on about stuff that I had in the 70s, the platforms and that, but I remember the story from when it would have been probably late 70s, actually. It was, when I was a bit of a Who fan.
Oh, yeah.
And myself and a bunch of guys went over to watch the Who in Paris, at the Paris Pavilion, when Keith Moon was still actually playing for him, I believe. Before the summer that he died, and we got on this. We were about to get on the ferry, and I had decided to wear. I'd had a T-shirt made, and the T-shirt had a slogan on it which said, "Who the F are you?"
Yes.
Question mark. Right.
Yes.
But the F word was spelled out.
Oh, I see.
And as I was going through customs on this side, the English side, I was called to one side by the customs aficionados.
Yes.
And said, "I don't think you should wear that shirt." And I said, why not? I said, because it's offensive.
Yeah. And where were you again?
I was at the ferry terminal in Dover, I think.
Right, I see, yeah.
And there was a bunch of us going over, and it was a black T-shirt with white writing on it.
Yeah, well, of course it was offensive.
And it was the line from a Who song, which is called "Who Are You?"
Yeah.
And in the midst of the Who song, there is that line that says, "Who the F are you?"
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's still offensive.
Well, I was 18 or 19 or something. Yeah. And I was, young and
show off.
A bit of a rebel, right? And so what I had to do, they said, well, we can't stop you wearing it.
Yes.
But what we want you to do is to somehow cover it up.
Yes.
And so somehow on the trip across the way to Paris,
some black paint or something.
Well, no. What happened was one of the guys had a patch that was a Who patch that used to sew onto a Parker or a jacket, right?
Yeah.
And so bizarrely, one of them had a sewing kit, and they sewed this patch, the Who patch, over the F word.
Yeah, what a lot of trouble.
But I mean, so I was able to then wear it, because I mean, I don't think I even took any of the other clothes with me.
No.
We literally were going there, we were staying the night, and we were coming back.
Yeah.
So we weren't bringing anything with us.
Dear me, shocking.
So that was the only time I've been told that my T-shirt was offensive.
Oh, it was terrible. So my third one, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, do you know what? This is not an item of clothing, but it is an item of fashion.
Is it?
Aviator glasses.
Oh, yeah.
I got a pair of aviator glasses when I was the news editor of the Daily Express.
Ray-Bans?
Yeah. Well, I don't think they were Ray-Bans. I don't know what they were, but they made me look more important.
Yeah.
And,
they must have made you look like right plank.
Well, I didn't realise that until about a year later,
Yeah.
when I realised people were sniggering behind their backs and saying,
No, they did that all the time in your case.
And but they were so. I think I've got a picture of myself somewhere. The frames were so wide.
Yeah.
They looked almost like those ridiculous glasses Dennis Taylor used to wear. Although in Dennis Taylor's favour, it did win him the World Championship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I got them as huge as I possibly could.
Yeah, you could get Ray-Ban aviators still, or you could get fat-face aviator glasses.
Yeah. And, but, although they had lenses in because I needed glasses, there was no question of me wearing them for practicality.
No.
They were a fashion statement, and I was a smooth guy.
Did you think you were in chips or something?
I just thought I was a smooth guy, and I was a top junior executive, and people would look at me, point to me in cocktail bars, and say, "Look at that."
But
guy
these are
with his
babe
Ray-Bans.
magnet for you as well.
Yeah, they're definitely babe magnets.
I mean, what sort of women would be impressed by that rubbish?
Well, in those days, it was quite fashionable, actually. Sort of the shakers and the movers in the world, of which I was
Shakers?
one. Yeah, shakers.
They make a lot of furniture.
Of which I was one. Used to wear those things, and
well, I've got good news for you. You can buy a pair of Tom Brown silver mirrored aviator sunglasses now for 600 notes.
600? You must be joking. I wouldn't pay £6 for that rubbish.
I know.
You mad?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
See, I was always a Ray-Ban kind of guy rather than aviators.
Oh, yeah?
It just tells you the difference between you and me.
Is that right?
Coming up, it's time for the Porky quiz. So stand by your beds.
Excellent.
Porky Vision, sorry, I've just been reminded.
Oh, yeah, Porky Vision.
Porky quiz.
Okay.
I think the glasses put me off.
Okay.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
This is Talk Sport, and of course that music tells you that it is time of the week for Porky Vision, in which Mr. Parry tells you some shows that he's been watching, some shows that he hasn't been watching, and what you should generally be doing around your television set. So, are you prepared to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll
And what
kick
you
you
got
off.
for
Yeah.
us?
Did you see that programme, Inside Heathrow? Utter trash.
I didn't. I saw a trailer for it.
Oh, rubbish.
I thought it looked quite interesting.
No, utter rubbish. Why do you want to know what's happening inside Heathrow? Heathrow Airport is the busiest international airport in the world, right? In terms of, east to west and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All I want to know is, does it work? All I want to do is go to Terminal 5, get into a cocktail bar there, buy some expensive presents from duty free, and get on with my life. I don't want to know.
Aren't you fascinated by a number of bags that go through it? And the
I
amount
couldn't care less, because a lot of them get lost, and jet fuel goes up and down in price, affects the price of your ticket.
Although actually, I think I might be confusing, because there's another one, isn't there, about the city in the sky, which is all
City
about
in the sky?
how many people are actually flying around the world at any given time. And
I don't know about that. Anyway, it's trash.
That might
trash.
be kind of interesting.
Didn't want to say it, because all I want to know is I want to see the front of Heathrow, not what's going on behind the scenes. What a waste of time. All it does is make people nervous about the airline industry. So
wasn't it a bit like? Was it anything like that EasyJet show they used to have? Which was all at Luton Airport or something.
A little bit like that.
That was sometimes interesting.
No, that wasn't interesting either. No. I don't care about other
flights.
people's jobs. They're not interesting to me. My only interest is what I do, really.
Well, everybody knows that.
Not what a lot of other people do. It's not selfish. No, it's called specialising in what you're good at. And because I'm, capable of what I do, I like to concentrate on. I have no interest in the fact
Maybe you
that
should just film yourself and watch that.
Well, that's not a bad idea, actually. People might get fascinated, and I could make a fortune by just letting people into my life, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not a bad idea. But the programme that really, absolutely punched me in the solar plexus was, of course, Coco the Griller, okay?
The Griller.
Coco the Griller.
Yeah.
Now, this is a story about a lady who borrowed a griller from a zoo.
Yeah. Borrowed a griller?
She borrowed a griller.
How did she manage to do that?
Well, she was a scientist, so she borrowed a baby griller, right?
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to find out if you could train a griller to be, a house what's the word?
Well, house trained.
House trained, that's right, yeah. And, could gorilla live in human environment and all that kind of stuff?
Well, you can't, can you? Isn't that the
yes, you
straight
can.
answer?
No, you can. And this gorilla grew up over this time. She eventually managed to acquire possession of the zoo. Sorry, not the zoo, the gorilla, okay?
Yeah, the gorilla.
Her name was Penny...
Coco a female gorilla or a male gorilla?
Coco was a female gorilla.
You sure?
And the psychology PhD scientist was Penny Patterson. Borrowed Coco from a zoo.
Yeah. You said that already.
Yeah, but this happened in the early 70s.
Oh, what? It's an old show then.
No. The gorilla's still alive in there. This is the whole point.
Oh, right.
Right. Okay. And taught the gorilla sign language. Okay.
Sign language.
Sign language.
What about sign language?
What?
What about sign language?
I just said that.
You said sign language.
And taught the gorilla to say food, drink, or something else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like walk or something like that, you know what I mean?
I can have a gorilla cheese sandwich.
Except the gorillas don't speak, so it was all like,
hand messages.
Hand messages,
Sign language.
Hand to mouth.
Sign language.
Hand to mouth for food, raising a glass like we do if we're in a bar for drink, and...
she didn't give a drink, did she?
Walking, he would go knock on the door and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, problem was, this went to extraordinary lengths, because Coco... who didn't procreate because there was no sort of male gorilla around.
Oh, that's probably quite... Oh, so I suppose, that's quite a good thing.
You see what I mean? Yeah. Wanted...
You don't want little gorillas running around.
Hey?
You don't want any little gorillas.
No, you don't want any little gorillas, so they got him a little cat.
A cat?
Yeah, they got him a cat.
I thought it was a she.
Oh, yeah, it's a she. Sorry, it is a she. And she wanted a cat.
Right.
So they went and bought Coco a cat, but unfortunately... Coco was not able to spend as much time as a human would spend on the cat.
Right.
So the cat got run over. Hey? What?
Sorry.
What's wrong? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
What do you mean she wasn't able to spend as much time with the cat, so the cat... How do those two things
Well,
follow?
because if you're a human being and you've got a cat, you kind of tell it to stay in the garden or something like that.
Well, you don't tell it to. It just generally does.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. Well, Coco was put in charge of this cat, which was a kitten, actually.
Well, maybe the kitten was frightened of the gorilla.
No. She got it for her birthday.
Oh.
And it was called All Ball.
All Ball?
All Ball.
Right.
I don't know why. But
All Ball?
Yeah,
How
All
do you
Ball,
spell
yeah.
that?
I don't know.
Oddball?
No, All Ball, because remember, I'm watching it, so I'm only getting phonetically what it's called,
I see.
okay?
Right.
And it was only 6 months old when he got squashed by the neighbour's car.
That's a terrible story.
And this affected Coco badly.
Yeah.
Heartbroken.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And, she was mourning for months, and wouldn't let the little cat's body go and all that kind of stuff,
dear.
Protected it and all that kind of stuff.
What, you mean was kind of clinging onto it?
Yeah, sort of stuff, yeah. And anyway...
So how long was this gorilla living in a person's house?
30 years.
Blimey.
Yeah, or over 30 years, nearly 40 years. And, of course, it grew up from being a little gorilla to a big gorilla. But then the problem was, that the Coco the gorilla became so attached to the scientist, who was a woman, that she didn't want to go back to the zoo.
Right.
So she was allowed to stay.
Uh-huh.
And it was a heartbreaking... No, it was heartwarming. It was very heartwarming. It wasn't heartbreaking at all. It's actually very heartwarming, okay?
Right.
And a
What
good show.
What channel was this on?
This was on It was on a BBC channel.
Okay.
Definitely on the BBC channel. Okay.
All right.
And
So you can see it on the iPlayer if you haven't seen it so
see it
far.
on the iPlayer, yeah. And of course, it reminded me all the time I was watching this of our own campaign.
Yeah.
Our own
It's not
campaign.
my campaign.
Well, it is.
No, it isn't.
For Tommy the Chimp.
No, it's nothing to do with me.
You see? So
No.
I thought.
Well, Tommy the Chimp's gone missing, hasn't he?
No, Tommy the Chimp has not gone missing.
Yeah, he went missing last week.
No, he hasn't gone missing.
They went to get him from his cage and he was gone.
No, he hasn't. No, he's
where is he now,
having
then?
treatment. He's having treatment.
Treatment?
I found out he's having treatment.
Are you
also.
sure?
Certain. Now, what I thought was we could recruit the prof, who is Penny Patterson.
Yeah.
And
She must be quite old now.
She's getting on a bit.
Yeah.
And get her to see if she can do something with Tommy the Chimp. Maybe even invite Tommy the Chimp to live in this house with Coco the gorilla.
Yeah.
And see if that works. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think it would work. I think that's a
What?
bad idea.
I think it's great. I think it's and anyway, of course, it gave me the ultimate thought, didn't it? That when I retire, would I be able to cope with a pet at home?
Yeah.
And if
well,
so,
you don't have to go for a gorilla.
well, I was thinking the gorilla would perhaps be a bit extensive.
It's a bit of a
wouldn't
big
it?
step there.
Bit
What
of
a
a big
cat,
step.
maybe?
No, I wouldn't have a cat. I hate cats.
A fish?
No.
Tortoise?
No, Labrador dog. I keep telling you.
You haven't got the wit to
Of course
look
I have.
after a Labrador.
Of course I have. I'm
No,
going
you
to have a
haven't.
Labrador dog.
It's too tiring for
And
you.
anyway, I think the relationship between a human and an animal is the most beautiful relationship on earth because it's crossing the divide between the mute and the non-mute. You know what I mean?
You've had a few of those in your time, haven't you?
What?
With those kind of relationships.
What do you mean?
With animals.
What are you on about, you idiot?
Well, I mean, obviously it's a euphemism.
No, it's not a euphemism for anything. You're just being pathetic again,
not.
you know.
No.
Anyway, you wouldn't know anything about it because...
well, yeah, because I've had loads of pets throughout my life, unlike you.
Well,
of course I know about it.
You always make fun of the fact that the only dog I ever had was epileptic,
That's
bashed
true.
itself to death, bashed its head on the walls of the kitchen, bashed itself to death, and you think that's funny.
I don't think it's funny at all. I think it's tragic.
I was so traumatically affected by it. I could never have a pet again.
Well, that's what I mean. So I'm willing to help you get over it.
Until this one. Now, other things I've seen this week include...
What do you make of the coverage of the Euros?
The Euros is pretty good. I see that our old friend Andy Townsend has returned to co-commentary
I saw that,
on ITV. It's great to listen to what he's got to do.
I think, wasn't he?
Doing the French game. And I have to say, I wasn't that impressed with the whichever channel it was that had 4 men in sort of casual shirts sitting around a table on a huge balcony overlooking the Mediterranean.
Isn't that the BBC table?
I think it might be.
Because one of the tables is like a miniature version of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I wasn't that impressed actually. I thought it was a bit distracting. But anyway, who am I to criticise other people's broadcasting programmes? You know, we do
What
it
about
ourselves.
Peaky Blinders? Is that finished now?
Now, Peaky Blinders is brilliant, but it's confusing.
Right.
At the end of Peaky Blinders, old
don't tell us what happens.
Tommy Shelby shops his whole family and calls the police in to arrest them all and have them taken away.
To tell the whole story.
Yeah.
You don't have to give it all away.
No, it's amazing.
I haven't watched any of it yet, and lots of people haven't watched any of it.
It's amazing.
Is that the last show?
Well, it's the last in this series, but there's another series to come, you see, the 4th series, which has already been filmed.
Okay.
So if I can get the inside take on what's happening next, it'd be great. But the reason was, Tommy found there was a traitor in his family. So somebody was giving away secrets. Who and the wicked priest, you know, the wicked priest. Who kidnapped his son and then blackmailed him. But this priest had been, you know, sort of attacking children all his life and all this kind of stuff. So they did him in. But the problem is that they found there was a spy. Now, Auntie Polly had fallen in love with the man who painted her portrait. He was Roger Wright. Hey?
Painted what?
Painted her portrait.
Portrait,
yeah. So she was posing, you know, in a very seductive sort of dress. So the artist, you know, then seduced her. Mass Rogerisation in the old, you know...
she wasn't in the orgy, was she?
Hey? No, she wasn't in the orgy. No, this was in his, what you call a place where artists paints.
A studio.
A studio, in his studio, mass Rogerisation.
When you're sitting in one.
And after a few bottles of wine, it's suspected Aunt Polly was telling the portrait artist a few secrets.
Oh, really?
Like the fact that they were planning to dig a tunnel into the vault
Don't tell us.
Yeah, of the Russians bank to steal their Fabergé eggs and all their jewellery. So they had to bring back the mad Jewish jeweller, Alfie, and Nutter himself, to inspect the jewellery to make sure it wasn't paste and all that kind of stuff, you know. And along the way, somebody gave all the secrets away. Tommy ended up in a very bad position. It was also revealed, actually, brilliantly, that the stately home he lives in, which he's lived in since the start of this series, in fact, it opened up showing this huge house to indicate that Tommy Shelby had moved on, you know what I mean? And was now, you know, a country squire.
Respectable.
Yeah, he won the whole house and the grounds and the stables and the cottages in a card game at his own casino. But one wonders whether the nutter who went into a Shelby casino and actually threw the keys to his house on the table knew what he was dealing with, because you suspect that the Shelbys, maybe not the straightest family in the world, to have a card game with in their own casino.
Yes.
Where they weren't going to be giving you any money, pal, you know what I mean?
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Still think that the Peaky Blinders is the best programme by a mile. No doubt about it. But full of violence and Rogerisation. And I say to my good friend Stephen Knight, the writer, who gave me a Peaky Blinders hat when I saw him at the screening, let's have a lot more of that, pal, please. Okay.
All right.
Rogerisation, bladderisation will save the world.
You feeling all right?
Yes.
That was Porky Vision.
Yes.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Matt says this at the two mics. Just had to make a grab for the radio and turn it down to stop Porky from ruining the end of Peaky Blinders for me.
Oh, well,
Hashtag,
sorry about
Porkyvision.
that, pal. Yeah.
Tom says this guerrilla comedy show sounds hilarious. We'll have to try and find it on iPlayer.
Good
Porky,
idea.
don't get a dog. Hashtag pet suicide. And quite a few people have said things about that. William says gorilla. Shouldn't that be gorilla? He says gorilla here is a barbecue, which is correct. And Becky says this. Saddest Porky Vision ever. Coco the gorilla loses her pet cat. Next week, could he review Lassie, Flipper or Skippy, please?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I might do something like that. Don't
a
worry
couple
about
of people
that.
have couple of people have remarked on your shirt. Harry's shirt looks like something from the C&A sale in the 70s, says Brian.
What?
Your shirt, he's not impressed.
Do you know what? I used to shop at C&A.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
And I have absolutely no problem with it whatsoever.
It's not going anymore, is it, C&A?
No, it closed down. But it was one of those great chains.
I can quite happily, with pride, say that I never bought anything there.
Oh, I did. I used to buy things there. C&A, the man from C&A.
Yeah, of course you did, because you would have thought that was cool. Yeah, you would have done.
The one I remember...
Up your street.
Well, I remember as a kid where my dad used to go to get his suits. John Collier, the window to watch.
Yeah, I never went there either. How about this from Lee? Coco the Griller. I thought it was a programme about someone working at a burger bar.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't. Now, listen, I want to talk to you, please, about the fixture list for the new season.
Yes.
Which were out
yesterday.
yesterday.
Everton have got a bit of a tough start.
Yeah, tough start. I've got Spurs at home.
Spurs at home,
do you realise that will pit the most recent Southampton manager with his predecessor?
That's a very good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now...
what news on Mr. Coman, by the way?
Well, lots of news, mate. Lots of news.
I mean, has he taken his first day's work yet, or what?
Yes,
taking another holiday?
No.
I mean, it has been pointed out by several people who listen to this show on a regular basis that anybody, if I took 2 holidays, one after the other, you would be giving me no end of a hard time.
Well, except
about
for the fact...
what a lazy, good-for-nothing, dilettante I was. This guy takes 2 holidays while he's in the midst of supposedly negotiating to become what?
Yes.
Is it the second or the third highest-paid manager in the Premier League?
Something like that.
He's not even around.
Yeah, but I mean, for
outrageous.
10.5 months of the year, football managers can't take holiday at all. No, listen, the one that's worrying me is November the 5th.
Why?
Well, one of the games... You see, I love the games in London because I always go to them. Now, the game November the 5th is Chelsea at Stamford Bridge.
Of course.
Now, I have access to rather nice seats in the stand there and... to lunch at Under the Bridge, which is Mr. Abramovich's nightclub down at Stamford Bridge, right? So I would normally go there, and the problem is, on that night, is it the 5th of Saturday?
5th is a Saturday.
But
I think every game on the 5th is a 3 o'clock kickoff, is it not?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I looked at that yesterday, and I'm fairly sure that it's one of those Saturdays
yeah,
where
but that's no good to me, because it's at Stamford Bridge, and we're that night we're playing Liverpool, aren't we?
Friday night we're playing Liverpool.
Oh, are we?
It's Friday the 4th. So you could be back in time.
Friday the 4th? Why have we chosen to do Liverpool on a Friday night?
Because it was the only time that it was available.
Well, we've got to get up to Liverpool for after we've finished the show that morning.
Yeah.
My God, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, of course I did.
Dear me. Okay, well, anyway, I might be able to get back for the game then.
You should be able to, yeah.
Well, that's okay, yeah. Well, I'm quite happy about that then. But, I'm just looking now, when are we doing what's our August agenda again?
August is, it's bank holiday weekend in Edinburgh.
Yes.
So I believe it's the 26th, 27th, 28th, I think, something like that.
Well, that's funny, because it
Friday,
says...
Saturday, Sunday.
Because on September the 24th, right... Oh, no, that's September. Oh, August, right, August. Yeah. What did you say, 27th?
I think 20, whatever the Friday is, I think it's the 20, is it 26th or 27th?
Saturday's 27th.
Right, so 26, 27, 28, I was
right. Well, that's okay, because we're playing Stoke at home, so I may not have gone to that one.
Right.
Now...
well, the show's at 11 o'clock. You want to pop down to Liverpool to see a game, you can come back in time to do a show at 11 o'clock at night. Just got to organise your life properly.
Listen, put this in your diary, mate. September the 24th.
Yes.
Guess who we've got?
Who?
Bournemouth away.
Really?
So you'll be welcome to come down to Bournemouth
Isn't
again.
That when we're doing Whitley Bay?
September 24th?
Yeah.
No, it's not, is it?
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it is.
What?
You haven't got this planned at all, have you? Have you got a diary?
Hang on, literally at the other end of the country.
September the 24th, we'll do the show at Whitley
So we
Bay.
couldn't be further away from Bournemouth, could we?
No, we couldn't.
My God. So that's September 24th. So
we
that's
just have to hope you get them in the cup again.
August is right, September 24th. October... we haven't fixed one yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
Probably doing a venue in London, but we've got to sort that out.
Yeah,
okay. Right, well, I'll make sure
I think you better get yourself a new diary.
Now, November the 5th, Chelsea.
If you've got an empty diary, you've got nothing in it.
Hang on. I've
Why
got
have you
everything in my
nothing
diary.
in it? You don't know when we're doing...
I just didn't look.
Well, you don't know when we're doing Liverpool. You don't know when we're doing Whitley Bay. You don't know when we're doing Edinburgh. I mean, do you know when we're doing rugby?
We're playing most of the London clubs away in the new year.
Right.
So, for instance, another one that we might have our eye on, Crystal Palace away.
Yeah.
Right, with our friend Mr. Powelson, who is the chief exec over at Palace.
And haven't you now got one of your other friends working there as well?
Yes, I have indeed. Yeah, I've got lots of friends at Crystal Palace.
Yes,
because it's stockbroker belt country.
Really? Doesn't look like it around there.
That's It's not.
It is not stockbroker belt around Selhurst Park. Trust me.
No, I don't be rude about their ground.
I'm not being rude about it, but I mean I've been there.
Where
and
can
I can
people
tell
go
you,
to football matches?
Yeah, it is not stockbroker belt.
January the 21st, right? So that's good. Then, if we look at the other games, now Tottenham away, right? We might see our friend John.
Yeah.
In the
when is that?
It's March the 4th.
Okay.
So that's okay, right? Right. Then what have we got here? West Ham away.
Are you just going through the Everton fixture list? I mean, you're not interested, for example, in when Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho first meet up?
No.
In the first Manchester derby.
Couldn't care less.
September the 10th.
Yeah? What's that got to do with me?
Well, because it's going to be an interesting fixture.
Well,
first time Mourinho and Pep Guardiola have seen each other, I would suspect, in a club match since they were both in La Liga.
I think for every visiting fan to West Ham, it will be an absolute experience.
Yes.
Because, for instance, will I get invited into my mate's box in the new ground?
Well, and what will the box be like?
Yeah, and I mean, presumably he'll want me to sort of give it some stardust, I presume. Yeah, well, I think so.
I don't know. You've never invited me to West Ham. So.
And the very last game of the season for Everton, Arsenal away. Arsenal away. Oh, my God.
Well, I mean, if I were you, get yourself a diary, start filling it in so that you don't make any clashes, which might embarrass you later on in the year.
Yeah, that could be a good idea. Yeah.
Now, coming up, I've got to have another message to give out to Tracy, who's down in Australia.
Okay.
So this is TalkSport.
Sounds good.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe it's not too late.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. The Porky quiz, of course, tomorrow is on Che Guevara.
Yeah.
As Porky put it yesterday, the terrorist, or perhaps the freedom fighter, depending on which way round you look at it. Craig says this: Mr. Parry looks like a Tesco manager in that shirt.
Oh, yeah? Listen, 1 point here. You just said that all the games kick off at 3 o'clock on that day. As one or two...
Martin has pointed out, that's because Sky haven't decided the game.
Exactly.
yet.
They have to go to the other broadcasters like BT and divvy up who gets what, first picks and all that kind of stuff. So, and remember, this coming season, Mike, the games could be scheduled, particularly between big clubs like Everton and Chelsea.
Yeah.
Everton are now in the realm of big clubs.
I mean, are you going to tell me that because of the new sort of influx of excitement and money and new manager and everything, that you might be more keen? Because I got the sense with Martinez that you weren't that keen to go and see Everton.
Well, we were very busy weekends last year establishing the Two Mics and that kind of stuff, and so I didn't even renew my season ticket, but I have now renewed it and got a better one. So I need to be able to get.
No, but what I'm saying, it would be only natural for most fans if you suddenly get a bit of an influx of different players, a bit of money, new manager. I'm not making fun of it here.
Exactly.
I'm saying you might be more sort of predetermined to go and see them.
Yeah, I think you'd be lucky if you support a big team to have more 3 p.m. Saturday kickoffs than others this season, because the options are probably going to be Friday night, Saturday lunchtime, Saturday evening, Sunday lunchtime, Sunday evening, Monday night.
Yes.
As well as Saturday afternoon.
They said last season they were going to do a lot more Friday night games. It never really worked out that way. There weren't that many, were there?
And there were a few Monday night games, but not a lot in the early part of the season. I recall, but I don't think for the rest of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Woodenhead says this: stockbroker belt changes size every time Porky mentions it. A lot like his belt size.
What? What are you on about?
Well, you said stockbroker's belt was Crystal Palace, which it isn't. Clearly.
Well, yes, but a lot of the fans are definitely from stockbroker belt.
They might
you
be,
see them around all the time.
But I mean, I remember when I went first to Crystal Palace's ground.
Yes,
and
that was with me, I think.
Well, no, it wasn't actually. The first time I went to Crystal Palace's ground, it was with my dad.
Oh, really?
To watch Crystal Palace play Manchester United.
Oh, really?
In about 1973.
Is that right?
But
it's changed since then.
It has changed quite a bit since then. But I mean, the surrounding environs, shall we say, at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, I was advised not to walk to the station.
Well, yeah, it's a yes and no. I mean, look, a lot of football grounds historically come from big working class areas because that's where the fans were, so that's where they built the stadia.
Yeah.
However, life has changed dramatically.
Now,
has it
David
not?
has tweeted in, and I don't wish to be making fun of him, but he says very helpfully, November the 5th is bonfire night.
Yes.
Just in case you didn't know that.
Yes, I do know that, but we're performing on November the 4th, yeah?
Yeah, no, I know that.
Yeah, that's good.
I know when we're performing.
Yeah,
You're the one that doesn't know.
Well, I didn't know. I don't. Look, do you think my life is dominated by things that happen in November? Don't you know what I've got to do between now and November?
Well, you've got to try and stay alive for a start.
Yeah, that's
You've got
right.
to make sure you don't do anything stupid.
I've got to have my. I've got to have the whole of my mouth rebuilt.
You'd have 85 teeth taken out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
86 put in.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Demi says, "How about we get Porky to borrow Tommy the chimp and train it to be the chimp of the people up on the old top roof garden?"
Well, that's a good idea. It's not a bad idea at all. If I could do that, I would. You know.
Yes.
I've got to devote most of the rest of my life to looking after others, and animals feature big.
Really?
In my what's the word I'm looking for? My scope.
In your little world of
my scope, my
nod.
spectrum. In my spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's one from Dave. Cheers for telling me all about Peaky Blinders, you plank.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, you should watch these things, that's what they're there for. They're on television to watch, okay?
Well, luckily for me, I think if I'd start, because I've now got the first 2 series, right? If I start watching it now,
yes.
By the time I get around to watching series 3,
yes.
I'll have forgotten all the things that you gave away.
Well, of course you
So
will.
it won't seem like such a problem.
Exactly, that's absolutely right.
Yes.
Big difference, actually, in Peaky Blinders from the first series to the one that's now the 3rd series.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Knight, who created it and wrote it, has developed it so beautifully, realistically, you know what I mean?
Right.
The things they got up to in the first series were, like, petty thievery now compared to what they're up to now,
right. Well, I guess that's the nature of the story, isn't it?
I suppose it is, yeah.
And the guy who plays the main character...
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, is a guy that I'm familiar with from a movie called Perfume.
Oh, really?
I don't know whether you've seen.
No, I haven't, but he's got the most...
You want to talk about an orgy scene, you want to check that one out.
He's got the most beguiling face, he really has. He's a terrific actor. One of the best.
He is.
One of the best. Now, I've got a few.
Get your life back.
Got a few tweets here from people saying, "Please, could you continue with the life cycle of the truffle?" Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
I doubt you've got any of those.
In scientific terms, truffles are a group of edible mycorrhizae fungi.
What?
Okay.
Fungi is good enough, isn't it?
It's
I've already told you all this.
MYCORRHIZAL. Sorry, mycorrhizal fungi. It's mycorrhizal fungi.
Yeah.
The most well-known truffles are subterranean fungi of the genus Tuber class Ascomyxetis.
Tuber.
Yeah, this is all boring stuff.
Yeah, it's really crap.
It's really boring.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
What do you call a place where artists paints?
A studio.